Survivor specialist Phil and Alexa are back with our second of the Survivor Island of the Idols tell-alls, and today we are joined by Noura Salman at Noura Knows Best. It's all down there. Noura, thank you so much for coming on. This might be our most anticipated podcast maybe ever. I think people were going crazy over this. Like, she's so excited.
It's like how I feel about watermelon.
Right, exactly. Which, by the way, we're going to get to this whole, it looks like a watermelon rind at the bottom of the puzzle.
That was some good looking watermelon, though. It looked delicious.
It was amazing. I literally was like, where do you find this? We don't have this on our island.
Yeah, those were like buried in the stash for Rob and Sandra just to make sure that you all fed. But Jamal said he was told by Boston Rob no free lunches, and there's Noura eating like an entire watermelon. So I don't know.
Maybe it was distracting. It got me off my A game. I was just so excited about the watermelon. I was like, not really thinking about what I actually have to do right now.
Exactly, which we're going to get into all about your Island of the Idols experience for sure when you're out there with Rob and Sandra. But Noura, this is your show. We got to watch what they edited of you getting to the end. Now we get to hear how it really went down. So I'm excited for this.
You guys just specify the question and I will try to focus where you want me.
Alexa, are you up for that challenge? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, Noura, so you get out there on day one. Here we go. We're going right to day one. And Jamal, who we just did a tell-all with, was saying...
It was so good, by the way.
Oh,
he was great.
Jamal's awesome. Jamal is the best. But he said that you were kind of the one who created this whole Jamal, Molly, Jack, King, Queen, Jack thing. Why did this come up and what happened?
It's exactly the truth. Okay, actually, day one, my focus was on Molly. Day one, it was me, Janet, Kelly, by the fire, Lauren, and I was like, guys, we're on the outside of this right now. And Jamal did say it very well, and perception is reality. They were so chummy. They were laughing. They were so confident. And it feels like you're back in high school and there's this group that's the clique and they're comfortable and they just because they feel powerful and they feel good, you don't like that. You already just don't like that. And that's a number of 3, right? Mm-hmm. So that first night, I was like, guys, Molly, we have to take Molly. And like, Noura, this is day one. Like, why are you talking about Molly? And I'm like, do you just see her? She's just like this.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, I don't like that. I don't like it. And the thing is, in high school, a small number can reign supreme. But in a game like this, no, I was like, guys, we all are the numbers. And so from day one, my vote was Molly. And I think where I went wrong, because I am a good-hearted person, and I loved Jason from the minute I met him. He came running up to me on the beach and was like, Noura, you're gonna be the strongest woman of the season. Like, let's talk, let's get together. And we're from the same area. He went, I'm from the DC area. He went to school in the DC area. And we actually have a lot of things in common. Like, he dated one of my cousins. Like, we have these weird things that came together. And he just felt familiar. And that's, I think, what we go for in life, right? Like, you want to be around people that you feel are your flock. And so as soon as everyone's like, hey, Jason's been gone for like 20 minutes, they're like, okay, it's going to be Jason. And how easy would it be for me just to say, okay, I'm just not that way. And for me, I was here to play a big game. And I know that some people might think, and we'll see, is there a reason behind my actions? There are many reasons behind my actions. And I'm not the best at spelling it out for people because I work for myself. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't need to tell you how I go from A to Z, but in life, when you're with others, they need to understand your way of thinking and why you're, moving in the way you are. Yeah. So I think that's part of my problem. We'll talk about that later. But so at that point in the game, I could have just said, yeah, it's Jason, but I loved the guy. I felt a connection with him. And I believe when people come to you, that's powerful. Like in business, when you have people that are hot for you, you go with them. You don't shoo them away. You go for them. So I could have said, yeah, it's Jason. I said no. And that's when it went from him being the target to me, because I already am opinionated. They can already tell, like, all right, she's not controllable, and she's a wild card, and we can't ever tell what she's thinking. So now the target's on me, and I'm actually literally in one of my first interviews, I'm crying, and I'm like, oh my God, I might be going home. Like, how did this happen? Like, I was freaking out. And so this whole, I know you've heard like Noura had idols and she played these fake idols, and I know they didn't really actually go into play, but this is what I did. When I was at this bottom point, and I had planted the seeds of Molly, and what you learn in Survivor is this takes a long time. Like, you have an idea, it doesn't happen in 24 hours. It's like anything in life. And so when you don't see things start to happen right away, people start to get freaked out, and then they start scrambling for another plan. But for me, I've always been like, no, this is the plan, and it's Molly, and it just is going to have to take some time, right? But at this point, you're like, I might go home, and I tell myself, okay, what could happen right now that would make you feel good and happy and confident, and the target would go off of you? And I'd be like, well, if I found an idol. And I'm like, well, what if I just make a fake one and just feel the feels of having an idol? So I go to Tree Mail, I take a raggedy little thing that's hanging off the side of it. It's our color, it's purple. I find a nice size rock, the palm of my hand, I wrap it, and I stick it in my bra. And I go up to Jason, who's like, Noura, I'm pooping. And I'm like, I need to talk to you right now. He's like, can I have a second by myself? I was like, no, I need to talk to you right now. He's like,
oh my God.
Okay, what's going on? Tell me, what's up? And then he's like, what do you got there? I'm like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And I just, so for me, after I come back from talking to him, and I don't actually tell him I have anything. I was like, I figured something out, and I feel good right now. So when I go to camp and I'm like, guys, you want to do yoga? They're like, what? Who is this girl? And I was like, I'm just going to be the real Noura, happy, confident, have fun. And just that literally turned around my game at that point. And I know everyone's going to take credit for the Molly vote, but I really worked with different people. I was close with Dan, who I know people said that he ran that. And honestly, Janet was really following. She was really good at figuring out who's the head, and I'm going to stick to them. And so we had this awful night, and this is cool material for you to hear because no one's heard this part about Dan. One of the hardest nights I had out there, it was raining. The rain's coming down. This man had a jacket. He takes the jacket off of him and he puts it over the two of us. And we're at the shittiest part of the shack. It was, I know it's a shelter, but I called it the helter, and Jamal hated that because I was making fun of his shelter. But like, it was a helter. Like, there was a night actually that the roof part like went not like bump, and we all like ran out of it.
God,
like,
it's so scary.
We thought it was gonna collapse on us. So anyway, so we're in the helter, we're on the end. And this is another thing, like, of dynamics of where are people sleeping. And Jamal and Molly always had this like really nice little nook. It was dry, or maybe it's just more that he was keeping her dry, but like, you see me that next night, that next morning, that's why I go a little crazy, is because I felt like I get up in the middle of the night, I'm fortifying the shelter, I'm putting palm fronds on it, I'm on the edge where the rain is coming in all sides, and this man is sharing his jacket with me, and grown men are like practically crying. And I wake up in the morning and I'm looking for some compunction, and she's just like, I don't feel bad at all. Like, I was asleep. Sorry. Like,
I slept 10 hours.
So at that moment, I wanted people to see, like, do you see her? She doesn't care. She feels comfortable. She feels like she's running stuff. That was me pointing her out. There's a strategy to me acting a little crazy. And I wanted to be like, look, okay, you just said it. All right, thanks. And I'm just hoping people are seeing what I'm building. And this King, Queen, Jack, like, perception's everything. That was my perception. And I wanted people to play into what I was seeing. And Molly went home. So
yeah,
hey,
it worked.
And that's something that I'm thinking about as we talk through this. Like, you made it all the way to final 3. You didn't get any votes, but early on in the game, it seemed like you were able to kind of take how people perceived you and use it to your advantage. It seems like you were still able to do that throughout the game to get to the final 3, but were there any other times that you felt like you could have done what you did to Molly to somebody else and kind of gotten the respect of a jury to vote for you? Or is there anything you would have done differently if you played again?
These are really good questions. I think every time I made a move, it it needed to be, this is the thing. I'm a very written person. I need to write my thoughts out. And you also don't have any alone time. So for me, alone time was like, okay, I'm going to scrub my body in the ocean, like with sand, or I'm going to gargle with water. I'm going to even cutting open coconuts gives you a second to like not be with everyone and just kind of have a second to yourself. I mean, it was cool how they showed the Aaron vote. Like to me, I was like, duh, Aaron, like we are all going to go for him.
Yeah,
it's mostly
that was all you.
I like how they painted it that way, because in the moment I didn't think of it like that. I'm like, it's a lot of times in life we're like, that's just common sense, but common sense is not always common to everyone, right? So that day, you know, even when, I'll tell you another thing I did there, like when we were on that little island, which obviously is original Lyra, it seems like a little island, but it's humongous. And we're in this little area. We have a huge like pile of rice this big. It's like in a container. And when we get there, as you hear me saying to him, he's like, so it's Janet. And I'm like, I don't know. I would talk to everyone. And that was a part of my strategy is I always let people know where they stood, because I know they're going to go to the jury, and I want them to know, like, I did everything I could to work with you or give you a heads up. And I played a very honest and candid game. Right. And I would tell anyone I worked with, like, I'm going to work with you as long as I can until I can't. And then just, I'm sorry, it's going to be like that. So that was a good example of, okay, I kind of give him a heads up, which he did say in a lot of the interviews. And the funny thing is, I know how to make fire. If you look at one of the earlier episodes, I'm like, it's so easy. You don't even need magnesium. And it's like, people kind of forgot about that. Like, I can make fire, okay? So when we get back and I'm on this high of like winning the challenge, I'm like, can I practice making fire, guys? And they're like, okay. And I really did just want to practice, but like, definitely, like, it went sour really quick. Like it went south real quick because it was a wet area. So we already had a hard time like getting this fire to go. It becomes me trying to get this to go, and then other people, and then there's this big distraction of like, okay, we need to get this thing to light. And Aaron is just so focused on the rice because he's freaking hungry. He's a big guy. I was like, guys, to my vote guy, I was like, this is the best distraction ever. Because right now, all he's focused on is this instead of talking to everyone. You know how the game can change in a second. And right before tribal, it switches like how we saw with Dean, like it switched to Chelsea right before, and boom. So that's another thing where I never explained that I did a lot of things like that, where I just can change the attention from me to someone else, or divert the person's attention that should be doing something else, like looking for an idol or trying to turn people around and change the vote.
And I think one of the best examples of that was when at Final Tribal Council, Lauren turned around and says to everybody, that's why she was hovering over me the entire time, because you were trying to distract her from actually being able to make a fire because you didn't want her to do good at it.
And I wish I could explain these things. One, to explain them because it's just natural in my mind to do these things. And two, to not feel guilty about it. Because you know what's funny is you've got two villains that run Island of the Idols, and then you've got two shiesty guys next to me in Final Three. And everyone has no problem being like, I did this and that, and I lied to you and I deceived you. And they have no problem with it. And I have a problem. Like, I feel awful to be like, yeah, Lauren, like, I distracted you. I made you overly emotional. And I know when you're overly emotional, you can't like perform at your best. I felt awful to do that, to do those, like,
It's a hard thing to say to someone.
Awful to do those things. Yeah, you do feel awful to do them. But I also was point blank with her. Like, she's like, get out of my face or whatever in her own way. And I'm like, all right, well, I can make this even harder for you and steal all the machete. Like,
yeah.
Don't test me.
And that made her go a little more crazy. So something you don't see is we hug it out, and I tell her, look, girl, if you're really my friend, like, you would, one, be like proud of me that I'm in this position, and two, you would understand I have to do this. Like, if you were in my shoes, you'd be doing the same thing. Like, you want your best chance. And the last thing I tell her is, I'm like, she and I are like this. I talk to her every day since we left. And I told her, we're givers. Everyone makes their lives happen because of what we do. And we're always giving to others. Like, this is the one time where I have to be selfish and give to myself and put me over you. And that's so hard for me, but I have to. And that at that moment, she like dismantles and we hug it out and she understands. But I will tell you, the only regret I have is putting that bomb, which is Lauren, into the jury, because you don't realize how much happens at Ponderosa. And it blew up my own game. Like it literally, there's something I want to drop on this and I don't even know if I should, because I'm just so honest and I don't know where this is going to go, but
right on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right on the internet. Yeah.
All right. You know what? I'm a truthful person and I speak from my heart and I am proud of that. So I'll tell you this without spelling it out too detailed, like Lauren is motivated to help Tommy win. Okay. Whether it's just in their partnership, whether he's like, nudge, nudge, I'm going to give you some money out of this, whatever it is, she's motivated. So now you put someone who's motivated to really rally the troops for her partner in crime. Like that was dangerous. Like you start doing the combinations, like what would be better, and putting her in there being so emotional and losing the way she did. Someone can go in there and make up shit that's not even true, and it changes the game. And that's the only regret I have is, what if I had taken her to the end, and at that point you don't realize that her social game is not as strong as you think. Like people were not very happy with her. So if I could somehow sit with her and Dean, that's a hard combination. It's easy to get Lauren and Tommy, but it's hard to say I'm gonna for sure get Dean and Lauren. When you run the combinations, it's kind of hard to make sure that that's going to happen.
And were you really close with Lauren the whole season? Because in that scene, you guys are saying like, oh, we love each other. You're my number one. And we never saw that. And I wish we saw that.
This is the thing. And I told her this when I was picking who goes to fire and who comes to final three automatically. You know, I told her, Lauren, you never played this game with me. Like you were my BFF. Like we were tight like this, but you never would tell me this is the game, what we're doing, this is the strategy, we're with these people, this is how these people are going to vote. Like you never gave me transparency. I gave her transparency. I always gave her information. It was more like I had a best friend out there, but she wasn't an alliance member. She wasn't an ally that I was working with. So I will say from day one, there was one moment where she was standing next to Jamal. They were talking and I heard my name drop a few times and I could tell, like I can read lips too. Like she and I have a lot of weird things in common. So I'm like, they're talking about me and they want me to go home. So I go, Lauren, why are you talking about me? And she's like, we're not talking about you. I'm like, you lied to me just now. I'm like, why do you want me to go home? She's like, we're not saying we want you to go home. I'm like, lie number two. I literally tell her, you just lied to me 5 times in my face. And she's like, holy shit, like Nora's on to me. And like the next day after things have turned around and it's no longer on me, she was like, I'm sorry. Like, but even though she was lying to me, I knew I loved this girl. And I knew that we were going to somehow, you know, connect. But yeah, in terms of like playing the game, we were not playing the game together. Interesting.
But now you kept on saying that you knew you had to, like, you wanted to go to final four and all, or final three, and you were going to put Lauren to lose. You wanted her to lose final fire. Was there any part of you that thought about maybe making fire, since you probably were the best fire maker based on what you've said in the final four?
You know, it's like, you have a sure thing. Yeah. So why do you want to mess with a sure thing? And like, you're off that high, like I freaking won that final immunity and like, I'm calling the shots. And I get the point of doing that yourself. In that case, it's like, this is the thing though. You want to basically beat Tommy so he doesn't go. Right. And then you're sitting with Lauren and Dean. And this is the thing. People make up shit all the time and you're like, what is real? So literally when Tommy comes to me, this is what you don't see is Tommy out there played this very like, I was a boy that was beat up or you know, picked on when I was younger. And like, you see Tommy is like this young golden like retriever that's like loving and full of warmth. And you don't think of him like playing the way he was playing. And he was playing all of us because you feel like he's your guy. He's like, you guys are close. And it's like, you want to protect Tommy for whatever reason. He did an amazing job of making us all feel like we need to protect him. So anyway, so when he's telling you he sucks at fire, you're right. In that moment, I could say, all right, I'll go against him in fire. But honestly, if I did it again, I could say, all right, put Dean against Tommy in fire. But you got to remember, it was Tommy that was teaching Dean how to do fire. So the only way I could do it differently is say, do it the way I did it. And then when we get to tribal, say, sorry, Tommy, you're actually going fire against Dean or fire against me. And then because he hasn't practiced all day and he's not expecting it, under pressure, he might cave and we might get him out that way.
Yeah. And do you think that if that goes down, maybe the jury's not even angry with you, but do you think they respect the game a little bit more and maybe you do get a couple votes if something like that happens? Because Lauren's now not over there to kind of be like, I don't like the way this just went down.
True. I'll tell you this. We've seen many different tribals where it's like, okay, this person played an amazing game, but we hate them, so we're not going to vote for them. And then by default, one of these other two gets the luck of the draw, right? And then you see seasons where like you have really good players, like it would be like, let's say Lauren and Tommy, if they were at the end, like that would be really interesting to watch. Like these would be really good players. The thing about my game is, and I told people this along the way, you've got to own your game. You know, if I'm using the game of underestimate me, undervalue me, like if I'm using this game to get to the end, how do I shift the perception that I built the whole game in one tribal?
Yeah, that's hard.
It's almost impossible. And the thing is, because I had such a shitstorm come at me, what you don't see is literally, and the psychologists confirm this, no, it's not your imagination. You were attacked for 90 minutes. And there were many times where I started to cry, like, I can't believe, like, the pain and the hurt in these people is so strong. And it's not an organized tribal, like, let me stand up and ask a question. It's like
firing squad.
And it's not good because there are a lot of people that stay silent because in this group think situation, you're like you want to say something, but you can't. You don't know when's a good time to step in. And then before you know it, it's over. And 4.5 hours of tribal and it's over. It literally was like that. And there were so many times where like, so Noura, and it wasn't just like, you don't feel like you have any cheerleaders and they're coming at you like, so why did you do this? And they're like, what that day when you came to talk to me and Elizabeth in the water, Missy is saying this. She's like, what was that about? I'm like, and that's why I say the whole dating thing. And that's when they're like, But the point I was trying to make is it's multiple things. It's like, one, I want to laugh because my group has been dry as shit and I haven't laughed for weeks with Bokai starting off this game. It's a heady group that just is in their gamey head all day. Like I was so happy to be on the swap and go to Lyra Beach.
They were a fun group, that second Lyra group.
I feel like they purposely put me on Vokai because I'm so much more Lyro, and they were hoping maybe at the swap, like at the merge, I'm sorry, that like, or in the swap too, that like, like maybe Noura really will swing hard because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is always good because it causes chaos, and then all of a sudden alliances can switch. Because it did, I mean, it seemed like when those tribes first came out, when we did all of our picks and fantasy games, you seemed like an easy boot from that tribe, like an easy first boot from that tribe, just because everybody else, you had attorneys and teachers, and it seemed like you said, everybody was so heady and everybody was just going to play this very scripted, level-headed, I need to get to the end and this is how I'm going to do it. And then it's like, and here's Noura to just throw a wrench in everyone's plans. I had you in the bottom of my power rankings, I think, for the first 6 weeks.
And then in the other tribe, Missy and Elaine are like beating each other up every day. So
honestly, when we're on those boats, and I love how like Jamal's giving you so much detail and like stuff you didn't see. So we're on these boats and we're coming in and like they're having you angle so you can see each other and take a look at each other. You think to yourself, what are we? Are we the nerds? And they're the athletes? Because something that people don't know about me is I'm not a lawyer. I'm a CPA of 15 years. Okay. I am a white collar professional and I've made my living for a long time. I have my own firm for a long time. So people don't know that about me. But when you're out on that boat and you're looking at everyone and you're wondering what you are, and then when we actually get to our beach and you say, okay, teachers and lawyers and CPA, and you're like, wow, like maybe we are it's nerds versus athletes. Like I for sure thought that's what it was. Yeah.
And it could have definitely gone down that way, except then when you actually see the Lyro tribe, there's really not athletes over there. There's a few, but it's not like they were loaded as you guys saw when you win 3 out of the first 4 challenges. Or immunity challenges, at least.
Although Karishma did say she does Orange Theory 5 days a week. So
love that.
You never know.
Yeah.
That's a lot of OTF.
I still don't know if it's true. Okay, guys.
Yeah.
So you were just talking about how everybody wants to protect Tommy, or everybody wanted to protect Tommy. And
Yeah.
I think one of the best examples of this and one of the biggest moments
Ugh.
of the season was at Final 8 when Dean really wanted to protect Tommy, and it all comes on you. So I want to hear what your take was in that tribal council when Dean leans over to Tommy and says, "Hey, it's going to be you."
I'll tell you. First of all, my big long soliloquy of coming to the beach and trying to explicate the tribe, the dynamics, where we're at now, where we're headed. The whole point of me doing that is to give these people a clear picture of why would Noura want to leave her group? Why would she want to make a big move against them? Like, I'm trying to set things up so that it makes sense, right? I don't want them to think, yes, I'm emotional in that moment, but I don't want them to think that this is an emotional move. And another thing I will say is most people want to play this game with a plan that's static, and 2, ego. And when you lead with ego, that's when you go. Kelly, when you're being this heady, trying to, she gets too big for her britches, and people are like, I don't like that. Like, as soon as you lead with ego, you're out. And honestly, what is the word? When you're the opposite of that, and you're grounded and you're down to earth,
Humble.
Those are the ones that actually got to the end, honestly, right? So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that, like, I played in a variable way because life is variable. The game is variable. If you go in with a static plan, it's never going to work. And especially someone that wants to stick to it and doesn't know how to adapt. So a lot of times people would say, is Noura playing emotionally? And it's like, no, I'm playing with what's happening right now. And I'm right here. And my like point of reference was, what's my next best move right now? That's it. You play here, you play today, you play now, right? That's just my approach. But so when I come back to the beach and I tell them, like, this is where we're at, I really think I'm making them understand, like, yeah, I'm with you and I want to do this. Now, I had told them, like, yeah, let's go for Lauren. And that was Dean's way of testing me, like, oh, will she get rid of her number one? And I'm like, yeah, I'll get rid of my number one. So when it changes to Tommy, because Lauren was that challenge, I'm like, it's so funny because Lauren, like, in real life, she's like, this is like after the game, she's like, that day that I won that challenge, she's like, I thought you were gonna be so proud of me. And when I look over you, you're like, and she's like, I knew something was really wrong. So now it becomes Tommy. And the thing is, I was not wrong to go through those different iterations. Because, all right, one, if we all stick to the vote and us 4 vote for Tommy, it works because of the way the votes have been split, right? Between, like, we had it between Karishma and Elaine.
I don't remember who the third. I forget what it was because the entire time I'm like,
it's Karishma and Elaine.
Yeah,
so Karishma and Elaine, because I was an Elaine vote.
Okay.
Yes, it was. So the thing is, you think for a second, all right, if I was assigned the Elaine vote, if I switched to Karishma already right there, I could make a tie if we only have 3 Tommy votes. And then if we do a revote, okay, now it could be Karishma or Tommy. But the thing is, then that's not my move. You're like, that doesn't really look as good.
Yeah.
So me doing all those iterations is, who is what vote, and what if they switch? What if they want to do that? So it was smart to do that, honestly. And yes, of course, like, idols do come into play, right? So, but the problem is, I felt like, what if I had made Dean feel more comfortable? Because I could tell he wasn't comfortable, but, like, history shows you everything. This guy was never making a move that was not with the majority. So even if he had felt so warm and chummy with me and he had felt my head was right, I still feel he would have done what he did. And actually, I thought to myself, he's doing this, I'll work with you right now, just to say, all right, you can't trust Noura. Let me show you another reason why. And now he takes my spot. Like, I actually feel like he never was going to go through with it. And I really do think that he needed Tommy to go to the end. So he was never going to do that. I think if it had been Lauren, he would have been down with it. But once it switched to Tommy, it wasn't going to happen.
Because at that point, I think Dean's probably trying to go to the end with Dan and Tommy. That was probably his ideal final 3, and now here you are.
And we saw it.
Yeah,
we saw it on camera, and it was weird. It's weird watching it when you don't see those things, right? But that of course that's an easier game for him. He will look better in that situation. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think Dean and I had very similar games. We're always escaping death and finding a way. But when you get to the end, and I don't know if you want to, I don't know if you want to go there yet, but when you go to the end, tell me what you guys think. The players that I really respect are like a Denise that did outlast, outplay, and is a well-rounded player. So when I look at myself, I look at Dean. I'm like, all right, you have the tricks and you have all these like all this lovely bling. Okay, fine. And you won challenges. Okay, so you did really well in that category. And then you look at Tommy. He sat around camp. He never opened a coconut. He doesn't know how to open up coconut, by the way. Like, literally, there would be times he'd be like, Noura, can you open coconut for us? We're hungry. Like, there were many times grown men were like, we're hungry. Can you feed us? I'm telling you. Like, and they're so hungry, they're like digging like with a little knife into the thing. They're just like, you can tell that they're like so helpless. You know, okay, I have to help them.
Well, the final, when you, Dean and Tommy are having your final breakfast, I know that you said that you're a vegan. They cut to you handing one of them a sausage. And I was like, well, this seems crazy.
Ironic. So the thing is, I even told this to them. I go, like, these guys are so, okay, definitely Dean is better in the kitchen than Tommy. Okay. Cause there were times where Dean had to like do things. Actually, if you remember when Karishma's like, I cut myself. Do you notice Dean takes the knife from her and he proceeds to cut coconut over here? Okay?
I totally missed that.
I was like, Tebow, rewind. Like, did he just do that? Okay, so anyway, he's cutting. So we know he was the one that taught us popcorn, like coconut, like popcorn, which is the big thing. Like they had the spice rack. So when we went over there, he actually cut it up, flavored it, and showed us how to do it. So Dean is definitely doing way more than Tommy, but in general, those guys just sat around really not doing much. Like Dean definitely did more like, okay, I'm going to go wash some dishes or something. But these guys in terms of camp life, no, man, like they sat around gaming. Tommy and Lauren were the biggest gamers that did nothing around camp. So I look at it like that. And Tommy won no challenges. And he's like, yeah, he's saying, he didn't want to win them. He won rewards. So you think he's going to win rewards and not win like challenges? I don't think so. To me, I don't think so.
Who did more yoga, you or Dean?
It's so Dean and I have some weird things in common too. Like there were days I would see him do yoga and I'm like, and there were days I saw him doing meditation. I was like, and when I see that people could do that stuff, I'm like, all right, this is a person operating on a different level. And it actually made me think, okay, I have been underestimating him for a while. And I wasn't wrong too, because it wasn't his idol that he found. Because when that idol got played, I was like, what?
Yeah.
This doesn't make any sense. And you hear me saying like, why didn't he play it last time? Like to me, it didn't add up. But yeah, I underestimated him. But yeah, he's good at it, by the way. And you see it like when we're at the end of the game and he's doing yoga. I mean, he knows what he's doing. Actually, in LA, I went and did yoga with Dean and his mom. Like
that's so fun.
Yeah. Actually, when we were paying, Dean was like, I'm gonna treat. And I was like, that's so nice of you. And he's like, I mean, it's the least I can do. I'm like, you're right.
You're right.
You're right. I could have done that so many times because of you.
And now that we've got you all warmed up on Dean, why don't you just go into detail
Tell us about the date.
Okay. Oh, I didn't answer about the sausage real quick. So basically, because they don't have very many kitchen skills, I was cooking sausage and bacon and flipping it. And literally we had the pancake batter. Tommy like pours it like this. I'm like, Tommy, you can't do that. Like he pours it the whole thing. I'm like, all right, I guess we're making a cake. So I made a cake and flipped a cake and we had like a pancake cake. But
so at the end of the day, it's probably better that Tommy won the million because he needs like a chef. He needs something like that because he would never eat otherwise.
He can buy some cooking lessons.
I still don't get it. Okay. Oh my God. All right. So we're going to the date. All right. The date was fun because I was like, he chose me, and like, that family visit I didn't get. There was a reward you guys missed. That was a spa reward. Ooh. It was me, Tommy, Dean. Okay. The funny thing is it's like really healthy food. And there's a massage for 30 minutes. And that was another moment where like Dean is laying on the bed and they had the blank, like it was like a towel, and it's like right over his bum, and I'm like, I can see his butt. And then they have you showering somewhere, and you're like, and there's Dean showering. I mean, look, you see an attractive man, like how do you not have a reaction? Like, are you dead inside? I don't have to be in love with Dean to like enjoy it.
Hey, we never said
I'm all for it.
But that that finale part where you and Dean are on the date, and he's like, "Oh, you could stop that." You're like, "Okay," and it's just like nervous. It was fantastic. Everybody wants to know about the date.
He pulled out the chair for me. I was like, "Thanks, Dean."
Very
like
nice
he has excellent manners. His mother raised him right.
Mm-hmm.
The food was nice. I had a vegetarian meal that was awesome, and it was just like, you know what? It was like the first celebration of like, look where we are. Like we're at the end. And I was like, I just want to enjoy this. And I did actually feel the way I felt. Like I was like, Dean, you've been a boy up until today. Like, the antics of like, by the way, if I did not sit in that back row, which Elaine made a good point in one of her interviews, like
yes,
the men sit in the back, right? Mm-hmm. So at that point, now that Dan's gone and I've got that spot in the back that Dan usually gets, what if I hadn't been sitting there? I wouldn't have seen Dean and this is what Dean looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck is going on over there? And so I actually tell Dan, I'm like, Dan, what's Tommy and Dean talking about? He's like, oh, it's nothing. It's nothing. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Oh, wait, Dean. Yeah, so Dan is there. I'm trying to think what man was back there that I took that spot. Maybe
Aaron, Missy,
Aaron, Jamal. Yeah.
And Jamal all went right before that, who seemed like they were behind. They were in the back row. Kellen made a great point. Kellen talked about this in Ghost Island. She's like, they need to start putting some of the shorter women in the back row because you can't see what's going on, and the guys can be behind you just talking, and it's such a disadvantage.
So really did you not take a back seat until the final five? Until Dan was gone?
That was the first time I sat in the back row.
The final
that was exactly when I needed it.
Tall, right? Like you're pretty tall.
Taller than me.
I am. Yeah. I'm 5'9". You seem the same height as me.
Yeah, maybe we're the same height. You might have had like some sort of heel.
Okay. Oh, I had some heels on.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it was.
By the way, I will not forget your face. When I walked in that bar and you looked at me, I saw you being like, okay, that's Noura, but she's not going to know who I was. And I was looking at you like, I know who you are.
Yeah, I know.
You didn't think I know who you are.
I did not think that you were going to have any clue who we were. So I was just, because normally, I've been doing this since season 30, and normally the characters like you don't really know who we are. It's just, it goes all the time. And I said the same thing to Elaine because Elaine knew who we were. And like, if you go back to like Elizabeth from 37, she didn't know who we were. Her brother came up to me and was like, we love your podcast. But I was like, oh, okay. So I just figured like, Elizabeth or, Elaine's not going to know. Nora's not going to know. And you came right up to me and I was like, all right.
It's so funny. I was like, yeah, I want to talk to you. But I have a friend, Brendan, and we have high school friends in common. And a lot of times, like, I'll be at a coffee shop, I'm at the gym, people just come up to me. And he came up to me one day and like we connected. And he was like, you should listen to Survivor Specials today. And I was like, who are they? So you're right. I didn't always know who you are.
Oh, Phil, he's one of our fans. He
is one of your fans.
What's his last
name? Brendan
McCarthy. I can't remember his last name.
Not to pull up his last name.
But we had some mutual friends in high school because he's from this area. So anyway, he turned me on to you guys, and ever since he told me about it, which was like very early in the season, I was loving it. And actually, I really.
I was about to put that. So Tommy's hungry.
I love you. Don't hate me because I speak the truth.
I think he's just hungry. I think you need to, I don't know, you need to go mail him a coconut.
Will you fly me over now that you're so wealthy and living so large? I will come make him some food. Actually, Tommy, I will come make you my Noura treats and my super freshies. You just send me that ticket. I'll come help you.
Send me that ticket. I love that.
Super Freshies is my company of nutrition bars.
Oh, tell us about it.
But I make other products. Like I make the healthy version of everything. So you want to eat cake, you want to eat cookies, you want to eat chocolates. Like I make everything out of superfoods. They're keto, they're vegan, they're low carb, they're high fiber, healthy fats. So yeah, I'm creating them commercially one by one, but the bar line is already done. I'm coming out flavor by flavor. So
that's awesome.
That's a big focus of mine.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I was going to ask too, like what is vegetarian option on Survivor? Because that's all Jeff calls it. He doesn't give it a name.
Yeah. Do they cause you mentioned you're vegan. Like do they accommodate that in the rewards that you've Like in that you won?
Okay, so from the beginning, when they kind of show us like some basics, and they tell you like, okay, this is poisonous, like stay away from this, like this is okay to eat. And for me, I was just like, okay, I would just stick things in my mouth and be like, oh, okay, I guess it's fine, we could eat that. Like I was just like trial and error. But when they would talk about like challenges and like, do you have the allergies? And I was like, well, I know myself so well and I've done all this testing. I know what I'm allergic to or what I'm intolerant of. But I was like, I'm vegan. And they looked at me like, yeah, we'll see about that, you know? And I was like, well, can you just put in a request for me? Anything plant-based, please, just a plant-based version of anything. And people actually saw this at Ponderosa because I'd be like, could you put some like extra avocado in my meal? Because I'm not going to eat this meat. Or, I would ask for things and people would be like, who's this like high maintenance girl? But I know what I want and I'm not afraid to ask for it. So plant-based meant like the date with Dean was mushrooms, like thick portobello mushrooms, grilled a certain way, and they taste kind of meaty. So
portobello mushrooms are delicious.
You're not the first one to ask for this too, because Angelina was doing the same thing back in 37. She was doing the same thing.
Is she vegan?
I don't think she was
she's
vegan,
vegetarian.
but vegetarian.
Oh, impressive. Okay.
There you go. Yeah. So it's becoming more of a trend as more and more people start actually becoming like that, or following those eating habits. So yeah, but I just always think it's funny how Jeff will be like steak, barbecue, vegan option, and you're like, well, what is that? Like, what is that? Is it like a paste? Like, what is he giving you? Like,
yeah, that's a really good point. Actually, it helps though, because a lot of these rewards, you're like, don't care about that breakfast with like the bacon and the hash browns and butter, and I was like.
Well, and I don't want to get too graphic here, but I assume that after, because I know how I would be, and I'm assuming after you don't eat anything for like 25 days, and then it's like, here's an entire rack of ribs and fries and all of that, your body's not going to react very well to that. No. And your body's probably like, oh, okay, I can kind of handle this, because you're not just like throwing everything at it, you're kind of easing back into it. So I feel like it's probably very helpful in those situations.
I have my own thoughts about this that are not related to the game, but I'll tell you this. In general, the standard American diet, the SAD diet, is very acidic. It's very acid forming, right? So most people, they're starting their day with coffee, which is extremely acidic, acid forming, and they finish their day with alcohol. So you're constantly doing these things that are acidic. You've got stress, you're sitting, you're not breathing, and you're eating a lot of things like white bread, meats, like anything that's animal based is acid forming actually. So we're eating a consistently acidic diet. Now, when you go on Survivor, you're drinking Fiji water, you're having coconut water. This is all alkalizing, and you're stressed in a different way, but it's less, honestly, I find it less attacking in terms of like, we're so overly stimulated in our environment now, but when you're out there, you're like trees, sunrise, sunset, water, like it actually is very relaxing. So, and you're breathing, and you got all this time to go on boats and be transported back and forth from challenges, tribals. And so a lot of people are taking a nap, they're meditating. Like, honestly, I can see why people lose all this weight. So now for someone like me, if I'm going on an empty stomach, I'm not going to put shit in it. Like, I'm just not. So ribs, beer, fries, I actually think it's almost like a little look and see what we have. And it's not good for you. Like, so actually I was the only one that never got sick. I would always start with fruit, empty stomach fruit first, vegetables, and then proceed into whatever else there is. And then I would finish with like some big dessert. I never got sick, but most people you've seen it. People have been medically evacuated for eating steak.
It's not good. Like twice. What would have happened if you won the Applebee's reward? That would have been bad.
I would be like, please saute me some vegetables.
Yeah.
Because that's what Applebee's is known for.
Right. Yeah. And when they were like spinach artichoke dip, I'm like, okay, I could go for some cheese. Because you see me being like, okay, I'll have that. I'll have that.
Yeah, that's fair. I could see that. But I love these points about all the food and stuff, because I had the same conversation with Carl where he was like, oh, when I get beer, I'm going to drink beer. I'm like, how? Like, if I drink like 3 beers, I got to eat so much food just to make sure I don't feel like crap when I wake up in the morning. If you're starving and sweating and not, it's like, why would you do that?
Anytime there was alcohol, I was like, no way. I'm not falling for this. I obviously, for me personally, I don't like the taste of alcohol. I think it tastes like spoiled juice. Like, I just don't like the taste of it.
Very fair
for me. But there were some challenges where people were just like, gulp, 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 gulp. Like, I'm like, drink it up, go for it. But like, I actually care for people, and I'll be like, guys, you don't want to do that.
Yeah. So this is why you're winning all the challenges and everybody else is losing, though.
Honestly, it's so funny that you're saying this, Phil. Like when I go to a class, like let's say I just did a boxing class this morning, or I go to yoga, and I see people suffering, I'm like, they don't know it, but it's like they put the kryptonite inside of their body, and I don't have it. So I don't have the kryptonite in my body, so I'm going to be stronger. I just am going to be stronger. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That's I think the advice everybody always asks, like, what would you do before you go on Survivor? Would you eat less? Would you eat more? Would you do this? I almost feel like if you start, and I'm making this up, but based on what you're saying, it's like if you can cut out like the coffee, and if you can do that type of stuff before you even get there, you're just going to be in a better place. I mean, you had Shane, who was smoking cigarettes right up until the day he walks out there. Of course, he's going to almost die. Like, of course, he's going to be miserable the entire time. So
Elaine is a smoker. And I told her, girl, you better stop. You need it. I'm glad I'm putting this out there so you guys all message Elaine and tell her to stop smoking, please.
How did she do it then? So if she's smoking, how does she go out there and still have such a positive? Didn't even seem like it bothered her.
She's amazing. She's amazing, but also smoking, very acidic, and she lost a lot of weight out there. And people don't realize it's not just that you're eating less, because I was eating thousands of calories of coconut a day. Everyone can attest to that. Like Noura ate a lot. And also I'm a slow eater and I chew like very slowly and thoroughly. So I'm like eating all the time because it's like, I'm just chewing and chewing and chewing. And it's just like, it's never over. It's never over.
You would have coconuts in the morning. And then did you say that like vegetables in the afternoon? What kind of vegetables did you guys have? Or was that more like?
I was just talking about on rewards. Like if I would go on rewards, I would eat as many vegetables as possible. Coconuts. Fruits and vegetables I would eat at rewards, like just overdose on antioxidants and yeah.
All right. So
we had breadfruit. We had breadfruit on Vokai's Island, which is like a melon looking thing. It's green, but you're actually supposed to eat it when it's ripe and it falls down. So we didn't realize it, but we were eating like unripe breadfruit. But it feels like kind of starchy, tastes kind of like potato or something. But when we started cooking it when it was like really ripe, it tastes like bananas. And that was like really satisfying. But you go from like Survivor where you eat like in a little cup and you're like, oh, thank God for this little cup. And then you go back into real life, like refrigerator, like grocery store, like you feel like you're always hungry all the time in this world. And out there, like we really weren't that hungry. It was really weird.
Yeah, that is interesting. So now kind of to go a little bit back to the game and maybe relationships with people, you were talking briefly about Elaine. What's your relationship here with Karishma? She ended up going home at that final 8 vote. You were the one who was like, Karishma doesn't do anything. She doesn't do this. Do you think she was playing it up, or did you start to learn she was playing it up? Or what was your relationship with Karishma like, considering even though you and Dean didn't really get along the whole game, you both had like that common enemy there?
This is the thing. I think Dean, like there's certain people that are hard workers. Like I'm a workhorse. Janet is a workhorse. Like there's certain people that are like that. And I think Dean is a hard worker. And I think anyone that's a hard worker that's next to someone that's like operating the way Karishma is, like it irritates you. It irks you. I know it bothered Aaron a lot because Aaron's like that. Missy's like that. Like I'm really close to these people and that's who they are. Like they're workhorses. And so when they see people like just getting things coming to them, I actually was trying to help her out. Like, by the way, I was the only one that would sleep next to Karishma when we came back and we were at the merge. No one wanted to sleep next to Karishma. I would have her sleep in the hammock with me. I was always making sure she was drinking enough water because she would go days without drinking water, honestly.
Oh my God.
And so I was actually looking out for her, honestly. When you see me go to that well and I'm like, it's out of your hands. I'm calling the doctor. Like, it's because I care. It's not because I want to get her medically evacuated. If I want her medically evacuated, I'll tell her, don't drink water, do your thing. I'll see you later. Like I was looking out for her, but she got very paranoid and was just like afraid that was where we were going. But that I think like she just wasn't contributing. She's not contributing at challenges. She's not contributing around camp. So you get frustrated, like, damn, she's still here and she's not doing much to be here. So that's why you feel like that, honestly. Yeah, and I love her. I have a lot of respect for her, but in the game, you just feel like so how are you helping? And then she also would complain a lot, or like in her sleep, she would whine sometimes. And I was like, oh, like,
Because she's on your tribe all the way back at the swap. And so and it's like you guys are butting heads the entire time. You, her, Dean, you're all butting heads, and all three of you just kept on going through the game. It was just like, all right, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna get rid of Tom. We're gonna get rid of Jack. It's just like every time. It was just somehow Noura, Karishma, and Dean has not exploded yet.
That's so true.
So, but
Yeah.
going all
But
the way
what you
back.
didn't, one thing I'll say is what you didn't see is that we did have a lot of conversations when we came to Lyra. She told us everything. She was like, this is the lay of the land. This is how these people are. Like, these are the people that are together. These people that are like she really gave us a great dissection of the group and let us know, how everything stands. And so for us, the girls, me, Kelly, Janet, like, we're like, well, let's bring her in. We'll have a solid 4. And you're feeling like she's valuable because she's giving all this information to you. And through her eyes, she's saying like, this group doesn't really value me. They feel like I'm dead weight at challenges and all that. And like, you could see that, you don't know much more than that. So that's why you're like, well, why would we want to keep her around? Well, you're thinking, hey, we've got she needs us. We need her. We've got a bigger group of numbers going into the merge. And then you feel more comfortable going into the merge, even though you don't know what's going on over there. You're like, well, I feel like we've got a solid thing going through. And for me, I'm like, women, like it's women like getting together and solidifying something. So I was all for it. Like I actually got along with Karishma pretty well. It was just more towards the end when I think she's on the chopping block and I'm not doing much to help her because it's going to mess up my game. And I've been burned before doing that for Jason. So I'm like, I'm not going to let that happen to me again.
So there was no part of you that wanted to take Karishma to the end because you thought it was somebody you could beat?
Okay, so when I was in my confessionals, I had this is a great question. I had this question asked a lot. And they're like, well, why not just take Karishma to the end and have her sit next to you? And they didn't air it, but this is how I said it. And I'm just going to say it again. She's the 50-pound weight around my ankle. I'm not willing to take to the end because I just won't be able to do it. Like by that point in the game, like there's a reason why these challenges are so like balanced and they know they don't want survivors swimming past the merge because it's probably a huge liability, right?
Everybody.
Like, right? So like the challenges are actually not that hard towards the end because they know we're so depleted. But when you are that depleted, like even though I'm strong, you think to yourself, I don't want any more hindrances than I already have. Like I'm already a hindrance to my own game. Do I want something else to tie to myself? That's kind of where I was at.
Yeah.
I get that. So when you, I wish we got to see this on camera, but we never saw your reaction to Jason going home. Once Jason was gone, like what was that like? And then once he was gone, like who did you try to turn to after that?
That's a great question. When we were on the swap and we're on the Lyra tribe, Lyra Beach, I'm like, guys, we lost Jason. Like, does anyone care?
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, there wasn't really much response. And I just think this is the thing. Everyone's very focused on their own game. And so they're already thinking, all right, now Jason's gone. Blah, blah, blah. Like they're just thinking like, all right, they're recalibrating on how things are going to align. But I remember being like, why are we not throwing the challenges over here? I was like, guys, before we had this swap, we all said as Vokai wanting to stick together, if we have numbers in a situation, we need to we need to figure out where the numbers are and do what we can to maintain them. So the thing is, there were so many times where we could have just kept losing on our side and we had the numbers. We were dominating this group. So why would we just keep taking off Lyra and it would be, Dean, Tom, Karishma. Like that's what it could have been and it should have been. And then you make the merge. Like it makes no sense. Like why wouldn't we try to throw them? Now we just were pathetic relative to the new Vokai in a lot of ways. And even though we had strong Jamal and we had Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, like we had Dean who played basketball, like we have me, like you think, and Kelly and I were actually very coordinated. We did a lot of things together that we could do in unison very well. So like you're like, well, I didn't really realize why we didn't do better, but and we have Janet who's a workhorse too, but I lost my train of thought, but. No, when Jason went home, you're thinking we could have prevented that. Like if we had kept losing, if we had lost that challenge, that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
And people didn't seem to really care as much as you think they would have.
Well, and then especially since the next vote, Jack ends up going home when you do lose again, and Dean has the idol played. Kelly plays the idol for Dean. You vote for Jack, and Dean votes for Jack. When Dean plays the idol, and then Jamal gets up and plays the idol for you, was there any part of you that was like, Jamal, give it to Jack?
I'll tell you, when I was told by Karishma, hey, Kelly's saying you write Jack. And I'm like, okay. All right, so then you're realizing, I'm actually thinking that Kelly's going to be the other Jack vote. Okay. I didn't realize, okay, it's going to be Dean. But anyway, so you're like, all right, there's going to be 2 Jack votes. In that moment, I'm like, well, obviously something's going to happen there where he could go home because all the votes going on Dean are not going to count for him. So maybe as an idol, because the way he was sitting right before tribal, this is so funny. He's sitting there, he's eating his crab soup and his crab. They'd gotten a lot of crabs that day, he and Kelly. I'm like, we're about to go to tribal. Why is he so calm? And then I tell Jack, I'm like, Jack, he is so calm. Why do you think that? I was like, why don't you check his bag? Maybe he has an idol. And later I find out the idol wasn't his bag. So Jack had done what I told him, like, hey, check that out. He might have found that idol and things could have gone differently. But so when I'm thinking, okay, there's somehow going to be an idol played and it's going to cancel out Dean's vote. So now it's going to come down to how I vote and Kelly or Dean. In that moment, I'm like, at tribal, I'm sitting there, I'm like, I should put down Jamal because now I can get him, because there will be a tie between Jack and Jamal. On a revote, Jamal goes home.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be
so ends up saving you.
And he would have played his idol, and then it would have been even cooler. Like, oh, and Dan, and I turned my game around where he actually would play that for me. The thing is, that is like what my gut was like, do it. Just put down Jamal, and then he'll go home. Because I've been wanting to get him like gone for so long. But that night before, and he told you that, we had this really long conversation. I don't think it was 2.5 hours, but it was a long time. And we did go through everything. And when I realized, like, oh, he's actually not trying to come for me, like, it really did feel like it, honestly. So I don't know why I was thinking that, but if he's saying now he wants to work with me, and it is a good point, no one's going to know, no one's going to suspect, right, that we're working together. I had told him and I had promised him, I will vote with you for the next vote. So when I had made that promise, I wasn't going to go back on it. So that's why in that moment, I'm like, damn, I could get him right now. Like, I'll have him. But I was like, no, I'll keep him. And selfishly, I'm like, if I get Jack out and I blame it on Kelly, Jack's an amazing athlete. Like, he would have done so well in individual immunities, I think, because of how he performed in like the group dynamic and in those challenges. I was like, well, now when I go back to camp, I can just blame it on Kelly. Like, it's not like, and I was honest to say, I don't want to reveal it. I feel bad and all that. But when you say, well, Kelly told me to,
makes it easy.
Yeah.
Instantly put the target on her back, and she goes home immediately because now people are wary of her.
And another thing is, and Jamal said it, but you didn't realize how big the impact was. But when we came from the swap and we came to the merge, Vokai was pissed. They were like, okay, all this stuff happened over there and we had to hear it from Dean. And Dean is good, man. Like, he always contributed where he needed to so that he saved himself. So he goes to our people before we do. And I actually tell Lauren, this is what happened. And she's like, why didn't you guys tell us that? I'm like, well, they made this pact, like, guys, when we go and we reconnect, don't talk about what happened. It's like, well, Dean's there. He saw it. Like, why? I don't know why. It was Janet that said it, Jamal that said it. They all said it. They're like, let's not repeat what happened. And that made our original purple be like, not trusting. And then when you see Kelly running around, like, talking to Missy for 2 hours and doing all of this, they're like, So actually at that point, you've got Kelly's at the bottom, Jamal's at the bottom, Janet's at the bottom. So Janet doing that move was also for her own game, because she is on the bottom, because now they're on the shit list and I'm not on the shit list because they know I'm loyal to them. And I also was corroborating this information that no one else did.
Right.
No, that makes total sense.
That gets so crazy.
It's like that one tribal council with all of that going on. And it kind of gets brushed over because then the next episode is the merge. So everything, it's like a restart for Survivor. Always happens once the merge happens. But it is crazy how much that impacts down the line that you don't even really realize, because it does kind of get pushed under the rug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like in life where you can send a group text message or do a post on social media and be like, okay, I'm going to broadcast this message. Like in Survivor, you have to go to this is the part I hated the most. You got to go to every single person, have these conversations, and then do it again because something else has happened since you had the conversation. And then you're constantly doing that and you don't have enough time. And it's just, I hated that part.
Yeah.
I hated that.
Yeah. So now you go to Island of the Idols. We went past the pre-merge here, Noura, really quickly.
We've been bouncing around.
No way we're not doing the Island of the Idols thing. So you go to Island of the Idols, they give you this option. You think that you can persuade them. Of course you're going to do it. It's a great moment. And then you go to the tribe and you try to explain it to the tribe and they just don't buy it at all. What was this like and what were you thinking? Did you know going into the challenge that they weren't going to put you up there as the caller?
So we know that this is the Hetty tribe. We know that they're very logical and like, as you're explaining it, they're like, but wait, why not this? And why this? Like even Jamal, he's like, but you just, I was like, this group, they're never gonna let me have it. And they're gonna challenge my logic to the point where I'm gonna confuse myself. Because also I'm not doing it the way I wanted to do it. The way I wanted to do it, and I learned this in that lesson. That was an expensive lesson that thank God I didn't go home for it. But the lesson was do it your way. That's been the whole lesson for this game for me is I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to do it the way this player played and this player played. And, you know, when you've got villains like Sandra and Rob telling you, all right, there's this strategy, that strategy, and they're teaching me the this for that. So you're going to do the, I'm going to give you this if you give me that. And that's, they even, like, we practiced it a few times. And for me, it just felt so foreign, unnatural. I was like, I'm not going to pull this off. What I would have done and should have done is, hey, guys, I have the information for tomorrow's challenge. If you give me the most pivotal role, we will not have, I will not lose my vote and I will actually be able to have a block of vote. The reason why we need this is because when we have this swap, which is going to happen, if we don't have the numbers, this will be everything. It's just like how Elaine had that situation when we had the Vokai and the new Vokai and they're 4 and 4. It's the same situation. So if I had said that, that would have been way more compelling. However, the group basically said, we don't want her to have any advantage. And we don't even want her on that course in case she knows where an advantage is. That's kind of where they were at. But if I had said the way I said it just now, I think that would have been more compelling because then it's like, that's how Survivor is. What's in it for me? If you could tell someone what's in it for them. Yes.
And I think the biggest problem with what you said was you gave them the information that was like, now you have to pick me to be the call. Or you had said like, you got to pick me to be the call. There was like no written contract. It's like, okay, now here's the information. It's like, well, we have the info and we can just go do whatever we want. And it's like, you had to almost find something that was either like after the challenge to maybe convince them like, hey, if I'm the caller here, there's something out there that I can see or that I can find. I mean, it's all easy to be Monday morning.
But they don't want to give me an idol. Like, what if they're like, now we gave her an idol? But you're right. Like the timing is when do you want to do it? And and the funny thing is when I'm telling them, all right, 4 steps forward. And they're like, Noura, don't do it that way. I'm like, okay, Boston Rob told me to do it this way. So you're telling Boston Rob not to do it this way. Oh, well, I don't know that because I thought his directions were great and we practiced it actually out on Island of the Idols. And
oh, you did? How'd that go?
Yes. And I thought his directions were excellent. So I was like, he was telling me do it this way. And I was like, all right. So a lot of it is they're telling you how to do it their way, which works great for them. It doesn't mean it's going to work great for you. And I think that's the reason why Island of the Idols was a miss at times.
Yeah. Definitely.
Oh, I think Island of the Idols is probably a one-off thing, especially with all winners coming next, because the guy who wins never goes and gets advice. And the only time he does get advice or gets like his little piece of parchment, you know, at the final 5, he ends up not getting it and Dean gets the idol. So it never benefited Tommy. You know, he never needed them. And I think that really should be the moral of Island of the Idols to the producers and everything is everybody plays their own game. And that's how you win Survivor. You don't play it by playing somebody else's game.
I love it.
Yeah.
Did you talk to other people, like as people went to Island of the Idols, did you talk to them and be like, hey, we're Rob and Sandra there for you too? Like, did you talk to them or kind of keep it to yourself?
Everyone had this thing like, I know what's
like a
over
wink.
there.
Yeah.
And like Kelly and I talked about it a little bit, but it's like, again, I called the Vokai Beach Paranoia Beach because everyone can see you everywhere. Like you're all in front of each other. The way the beach is, you're up top here with the shelter and the fire, and then you can see the beach right down here. I mean, you see everything going on. So it's like you almost don't want to waste your conversation on that. You want to talk about something else.
Wow.
But yeah, we were all talking about it, and what was cool was a lot of the ladies that were going are like, okay, Janet and Kelly, and eventually Lauren goes. So you're like, okay, it's all Bokai, it's all like girls like that I'm tight with. So it was cool who was going. But at Final Tribal, when we're talking about these categories of outwit, outlast, outplay, something Tommy was saying is he was like, well, I never got to go to the Island of the Idols. And I'm like, but he had 2 opportunities to volunteer to go. I went on the first one and Lauren went on the second one. So the thing is, when he made that point, I made a point in Tribal, like, but Tommy, you made that choice. Then he goes, well, I didn't want to put a target on my back.
Yeah.
You know what? You got to pay to play. Like, that's something that I did in my game where I took a lot of risks. I made a lot of gutsy moves, and some didn't work, but I felt like Dean never did that. Like, whenever I came to him with an idea, like even when we were on the swap, I was like, okay, there's Jack and Jamal, and then there's the girls, which is with Karishma. Like, can you add, like, come with us? Like, let's get rid of Jamal, because I've been wanting to get him for a long time. And he literally, every time I would say like this little plan, he'd go back to Jamal. He'd be like, this is what Nora is saying, da 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 da. Like, day after day, he would just keep going back. And I was just like any big move I wanted to do, like, we could have gone for Tommy, man. We really could have.
Yeah. I know.
Tommy had a lot of chances to get voted out of this game.
His social game was so good. That's why he didn't go. He always had people protecting him, looking out for him, giving him information. I mean, he killed it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So it's funny you say all this about Jamal, because when we had Jamal on the tell-all, he sits here and says that he was between you and Tommy to vote to win, and that he was actually thinking about voting for you. Now, on the season...
I didn't get to the end of that. I only got to like an hour and 45 minutes.
Oh, you missed it.
You got another 45 minutes to go.
The way that the edit makes it seem is you're a character, not so much a player. And yet Jamal, who was very much a player, I think, comes out and he says, I would have voted for Noura to win. Do you think that there were others who were considering voting for you to win, and it just came down to the final tribal council and you just weren't able to pitch it as well as Tommy and Dean were?
I know Missy wanted to vote for me, and she has some crazy matrix. Like, I hope you guys can talk with her. She's a matrix of each person in the final 3 and the different areas. And she's like, Noura, you score 9 out of 10.
Oh,
Those guys are under a 5, because I did have the most well-rounded game. 3 necklaces, found an immunity idol, had one played for me. I made fake ones that didn't really have an impact. I did the most around camp, and I was socially close with everyone. And but I was not I had my own strategy, but I was not the strategist like Tommy and Lauren and Dan, and like, they were really good at being like, all right, now we're gonna do this, and like, that wasn't me. That's never gonna be me. That's not how I play. But I had the most well-rounded game, and I did it with authenticity, with truth. I played with open cards. Like, I didn't lie to anyone. I never backstabbed anyone. I never deceived anyone. So for me, I felt like I played an amazing game that was well-rounded and clean. And these guys, when they look at the jury, like, especially when it was like Dean had like a final 2 and a 3 and a 4 and with everyone, you're like, okay. And then you saw Tommy like even lying to Lauren at that moment when I'm like, but didn't you not help her make fire? Didn't you work to make Dean beat her? He had a lot of trouble to say that, because it's hard, I know. But even in that moment, he couldn't do that. So for me, I wanted to make this point, like, these are 2 shiesty guys that did the minimum needed to get here. And look, if I was like Tommy and sat around just doing my strategic game all day, that's a lot easier. It's a lot harder to work hard around camp, to physically expend yourself in challenges.
Yeah.
And find idols and play them. And like, it's a harder, more chaotic way to get to the end, honestly, the way I played.
And especially when your name's always on the chopping block, because I thought that was a great point Tommy was able to make to beat Dean was, well, yeah, he has all this bling, but it's souvenirs, because nobody was ever going to vote for you, you know, and your back was against the wall. Dean's back was against the wall for a lot of the game, but he was always the second or third target. Your back was against the wall, and almost, most of the tribal councils you went to, you were getting votes, or your name was at least coming up if you weren't getting votes. So, it's a tough game, but then it always comes down to, you watch these past seasons where if you're a huge fan of the show, you sit there and go, oh, did that person really deserve to win? And I think some of the jury was like, well, Tommy's explaining his game so well. We want this to maybe represent it more than we want Nora's game to represent it when she's not really explaining it. And do we want to have that Russell, Natalie type situation, which the more you talk to you, it's like, she was playing the entire time.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will say this. What you did miss is when we started the tribal, it was a shitstorm of people attacking me. It was about 90 minutes. And I know Tommy got a lot of things coming at him hard, but what I got, like there were a few times where I'm like, I am taking a break. And I literally get up off my stool and I go and I go pee behind a stage somewhere and I take a little breath and I come back because I'm like, we've been up here like 4.5 hours. Like, how does no one have to pee? But anyway, like I couldn't believe that people were so hurt and angry with me and accusatory of crazy things that didn't make any sense. Like they would say things, did you say this? Did you do that? I'm like, no, I don't even know where this is coming from. But there were so many times where you can't, the biggest message lesson I had for myself, I knew going in was you've got to believe in yourself. And when you believe in yourself fully, you can do anything, win a challenge, find an idol, like escape death many times, whatever it is. Yeah. But in that final tribal, like I needed someone to be like, Noura, you've got this, like blow these guys out of the water, put their 2 games together. Like you are the more diverse player and you played it in a way no one's played before without doing like, I didn't wrong anyone. I really didn't. So the thing is, I was like this, hate me, love me, hate me, and just crazy chaotic. And then you got Tommy, who's like this. He doesn't ruffle feathers. He didn't piss anyone off. He made you feel like you're playing the game with him. Like he makes you feel loved and in. And even with me, like out of everyone, he made me feel like I'm with you. Like besides Dan, like Tommy was one of those, was like, we're playing together, Noura. And we would talk about the game and you're like, oh my God, I have a buddy in this. Like, and he did that with everyone. So why wouldn't you want to vote for your buddy?
Yeah. And so were you tightly aligned with Dan? Because you mentioned this a lot of times, and you mentioned at the beginning, like how he would give you the jacket and everything. Were you tightly aligned with him? Because at the tribal where Kelly goes home, you did vote for him. Like you've mentioned a couple of times how he was kind of always there and making you feel like you were playing with him.
So before the swap, it's so funny when I was like as I'm watching the season, I'm like texting him like, when do you stop talking shit about me? Like episode 1, episode 2, like when does this end? So the thing is, like, it's funny because that morning where he was joking like, oh, she yelled at you because you were sleeping, ha 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 ha. I'm like, but that was the night that he's like, you're right, Noura, we have to get rid of Molly. She doesn't give a shit. She's always getting this awesome spot of the shelter and just she's getting what she needs without having to do much. Like she is dangerous when you get rid of her. You're right. Like I'm going to talk to the group and we're going to, like, a lot of times moves that got made, like it's the blood's not on my hands. Like people, something that I would do a lot of times is like paint this picture and people walk inside of it. Right. And that's why they were showing the King, Queen, Jack thing. Cause all of a sudden Lauren's saying it. Like, well, why is Lauren saying this all of a sudden? But the question you were asking me was about,
how close were you with Dan?
Close with Dan. So I was close with him up until the swap. Then when we swap and I come back, I was like, I'm not feeling the love. And I could see how close he was with Missy, Elizabeth, Elaine, Aaron. Like I could tell that like he was tight with them. So I didn't like that. But when I heard the stuff I heard, I was like, that happened? But then you're like, why would these girls say this stuff? And literally, like someone like Janet, like this is the thing, this is like telephone. Even Janet, who is an amazing person and is doing an amazing thing to make this stand. And I was one of the people that said, I'm making this stand with you. She was like, these girls came crying to me. Not true. That never happened. Yeah. But I'm going off of Mama Janet telling me these girls came crying to me. So as soon as I hear that, I'm like, oh, that's it. He's out of here. Like, so for me, it was one, I'm already feeling like a little bit of a disconnect with him. But when you hear that, you're like, okay, I don't care. That was the only vote I had wrong all season.
Yeah.
That's the only vote. But I was willing to do that for the right thing. Like that's.
Yeah.
But then after that tribal, I sit down and talk with him and I go through it all. Did you do this? Why are these people saying that? I went through every little thing. And that's when we reconnect after that. And you see Janet reconnected. Like, you think Janet would just reconnect with him if there's like such egregious things happening. Honestly, that's how I feel. And I love that Jamal made some big statements. He's like, you know what? There was no sexual assault out there. Like, good for you, Jamal, for like just saying it. Because no, you know, I'm not going to take up this time to talk about it, but a TMZ interviewed me. I talked about it with Entertainment Canada, and I said, look, Kelly's like this, Dan's like this. Like, in terms of like physical touch and proximity, they're so different. They're on the different ends of the spectrum, and their love languages are different. Dan predominates with connection, and you see him massaging Janet, you see him hugging me, you see him like, when I see him with his kid, he holds onto his hands like this at dinner. Like, that's just how he is. And then you got Kelly, who's the complete opposite. She's very independent. And, you know, she's also just, she even said she's like a germaphobe, you know? So I'm super close to Kelly, but even with me, she'd be like, hey, Noura, you're sleeping too close to me. I'm like, okay. And she'd be like, I don't want to share this pillow with you. I'm like, okay. Like, she just isn't even like that with me, but I think she feels more comfortable to communicate with some people than others. And she also gets in her head a lot. I love her. And I tell her this all the time, like, she's a very heady person, and she can talk herself in and out of anything and just really, yeah, I think she just talked herself into some frenzies here and there. And, you know, it obviously exacerbated things when she hears things that are not true from the girls. And then she's like even more worked up.
Yeah. Yeah. That merge episode is like one of the hardest ones to watch. Cause
I'm
you're
sorry,
just like,
I can't imagine.
it's like everything just going back and forth at that point is insane.
But, you and your heady tribe, Noura, that's the word of the day, heady.
Actually, it's funny that you say that, because we were talking about Dan. He was the one that said, Noura, your strength in this game lies in your heart, not in your head. Whenever you get too in your head, you don't do well. And it's true. It's true. And that was something that I kept with me. And that helped me get to the end, because I did come from this instead of, what we do is we lead with ego. Like, what do I want? What do I want for myself? And I'm going to make this move. And like, as soon as you get like that, you're out. You're going to go.
You know what would have been interesting, and this is kind of going back to another situation, but we were talking about how, you know, with Island of the Idols, this was the theme of the season and all of that. At Final 3, they had this back when Michelle won. They had, you can get rid of a juror, and that was like a challenge, and she wins and she gets rid of Neil. Wouldn't it have made sense on a season like this to have somebody do a challenge and then get to go to Rob and Sandra on Island of the Idols one last time and kind of practice out their final 3 speech? Wouldn't that have made sense?
Oh, I would have liked that.
I love that you're saying this, because one, Dean got the best lesson of all, and he definitely executed it, and it helped him. He got it like not right at the end. He got it where he could like kind of warm up to it, go to a few tribals and practice speaking to the jury and understanding like how he performs has the impact, right? But I'll tell you this, when we have confessionals, one of the benefits is you get to go through your game. You get to think about where we're at, where we're going, where we came from. And that, like how Kelly had that epiphany, like, I'm going to do this thing. You do actually get those when you talk through things. So something that was missing for me is that final day, 39. It's like the camera people, the producers, they're all so excited. Like, oh, it's final travel tonight. And you're like, what about us? Yeah. We need you right now. Like, the camera people are walking around, like they're starting to talk with you. Like, there's one camera guy who's super cute. He's like being kind of flirty and like finally talking to me. And I'm like, no, I don't need this right now.
I'm in game mode.
Yes. And so something that I felt like was missing was like that final interview when you're talking with a producer. Like, it was like, he was like, okay, so Noura, it's going to be Outlast I'll play. There are going to be some questions that are asked in these areas. And then I'm like, hold on. I need more than this. Yeah. And I would have liked more time to practice, but we actually walked to the top of this like tall mountain to get that sick aerial shot.
Yeah.
And it takes time to go up and go down. And I think I'm walking in like barefoot, and I shouldn't have done that. Like, anyway, and then you're also eating food from the breakfast, and you're like, it's just too many things going on. But I think when you're also, there was this bromance happening with Tommy and Dean, and they're just like having fun and they're confident, and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, why are they walking in so confident? And I'm feeling like
a wreck.
I should be feeling better. Like, I would have liked to see them like worried and like trying to think about what they're going to say. But they like, up until we actually walk in there, they're just laughing and joking and having such a good time. And that really messed with my head. But I think it would have really helped to have more time with producers to talk about your game. And honestly, the format, you got to realize, like, Jeff handpicked all these characters. They are all excellent storytellers, excellent, and they have excellent like social acumen. Like, they are socially extremely intelligent. So you've got these like mega people, and they've got big personalities. They're not afraid to speak their mind, and they all are going to come at you. Like, so it gets chaotic, and you can't have this beautiful intro speech, exits, wrap up speech. Like, it's like you're like,
I just with all of with this whole new final tribal council with the firing squad, just like been watching these, I feel like it looks awful, and I feel like the way to win is just to like be able to take it, which seems horrible. Like
you said that before. I heard you say that before. You're right.
It looks awesome. I like do not envy your position. Like that is just a hard position to be in.
I did take it, and you're like, you know what? At that moment, you're like, these people need it. Like they are hurt. They need it. Yeah. They're upset. Like it's like a lot of times you feel like a convict in this game because like you're locked down, like you can't talk, can't look at each other. You're on a boat, no one else can see you. You're in a tent, no one else can see you. Like it's you're always like you feel like you're a convict. And at the end, when you see all these jurors, they're like convicts in jail being like, I'm innocent, and this is why. Like everyone has a story of why they shouldn't be there. So when you're there and you see Noura, who's chaotic, crazy Noura, who had all these crazy antics and found her way and did it her way, and did it like with this like straight open face game, like they're hating on it. Like, and the funny thing is, it's 3 men, 7 women. You'd think the women would band together, and I wish I had actually spoken to that and said, guys, don't you want a woman finally to win? Like, and then you think, well, then why didn't I take Lauren? And if I'd taken Lauren and it was 2 women and a male, now you have a better chance, for a woman to win. But am I here to make like something happen and change in history of Survivor? Or am I trying to do my best to win? Like at that point, you're trying to do your best to win. But the structure is really not good, and it doesn't serve the game. And there are a lot of people that are not as extroverted as others, so they're not able to ask a question or interacts with you at all. Some people didn't talk at all.
Yeah.
Right. And they've been, like you said, being a convict, like they haven't been able to talk for 2 weeks. They've only been able to talk to each other. So it's just kind of that like volcano of here's what I've been wanting to say for a month.
Yes. So, and they want their closure from you. They want their closure. Like, when it's like being on The Bachelor, and they're like the women tell all, and they all come back.
And they just nail him.
And they're like, at what point did you not believe in our relationship anymore? Like, did I do something that you felt like you didn't want to be with me anymore? Like, they're looking for this closure individually, and you're like, no, guys, like it's not about you anymore.
Yeah,
that's a really good analogy.
Yeah. And I think the people who can play to each member of the jury, or at least just the majority, that's who ends up winning. Because even if you didn't necessarily play the best game, if you can convince all of the jurors that like their trip was important, it's what we saw with Edge of Extinction. Chris Underwood was able to convince all of them, like, don't worry, because of me, all of your experiences mattered. And if you can kind of convince the jury of that, you're going to win most of the time.
It's funny because lying didn't serve me. It's not who I am, and it didn't work for me. Like, someone like Dean and Tommy, they're going to play up everything. And I am actually, and I made this point in one of my interviews, like a woman in general sees a job and they're like, I meet 80% of this job. Like, I don't meet the requirements. I'm not going to apply. And man's like, I meet 70% of the requirements. I'm going to apply and get the job because those other people are not applying. And it's the same thing. Like that tribal, like they're just like, oh, like I did this, I did that. And I'm like, I did this thing and this is why. And I felt like so defensive. I wasn't commanding, and I wasn't in my body language confident and smiling with them and, speaking with conviction. And I think I think I painted a picture for myself that got me to the end, that I wasn't going to be able to unravel that, spin it around and just be like, no, this is what I actually did. Like, I didn't say like, okay, I have a Mensa IQ. My first word is grapefruit. Like I'm not good at tooting my own horn and be like toot toot toot. Like I'm not. And so I like people like Aaron and Jamal and Jack and Kelly were like, look, if you'd just been more compelling in Final Tribal, if you'd been more composed and spoken better to your game, even Elaine, they were like, we'd vote for you. But the thing is, it's hard to speak to your game when what people are looking for is not what I'm going to give them.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And like you said, it sounds like composure is such a big part of it. And you wouldn't think that it is, but because like just because they're hitting you so hard to be able to just kind of hold yourself high and to your own horn. And I'm with you, like tuning your own horn's weird. Like if it's not something you're comfortable with, then that's a hard thing to just turn on.
You should be more worried about people that can do it. Honestly, the ones that can do it really well, you should be more worried about them. But I think if I could do it again, like that breakfast, forget food, forget like fuck everything. Like I am just gonna go talk to a tree and be like, this is my game. This is how I
make your own damn sausage.
Yeah, bye guys. Like honestly, like I that last day, but like you're just looking for some sort of like relief of some sort and something you can hold in your hand and be like, and so it's like the devil put these little toys in front of you and you got so distracted because I really think you think you could have practiced and be more I could have done yoga all day and meditated. That would have served me better than to eat and hang out with the clowns and make them breakfast.
I would pay to see a clip of you talking to a tree practicing your tribal speech though. I would
I would have loved that.
That would have been the best thing. The amount of people who would have just like the internet would have exploded on that one, Noura.
So good.
You said power hour. That's what Noura said before.
I love power hour.
And guess what, Noura? We all told you it was going to go longer. We're at almost an hour and a half. I know.
It's still pretty good.
That's pretty good.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But it's pretty concise.
But it goes by fast.
Yeah.
We hit some good stuff.
It's a joy to speak with you guys. I mean, is there anything that you're like, because the thing is, up until now, we were not allowed to commentate on anything. Like even a post that we do couldn't like allude to this person's going home or this is like, I couldn't even be like, all right, why is Noura spinning around? Like,
spinning. Oh my God. That was my favorite thing you did. I thought that was the funniest. But so was there a tree mail that told you to practice spinning? I knew it.
I heard you say that in an earlier podcast. Like it said something like, this will make you dizzy. And so like, okay, I'm going to have to be dizzy and then do something. So literally on the beach, I had made a straight line in the sand and I'm practicing, turning counterclockwise and then clockwise turning so I can recalibrate. And I'm like, this is fucking smart. Right. And actually I am the first one across that balance beam.
Wow. I loved that was the best. That was the best thing all season. That was amazing.
Oh, one little tidbit that you don't know is when I'm talking to the three misfits after the family visit and I'm like, let's do this thing together. And I'm talking to Karishma.
Oh, yes.
The part where I'm like the Karishma of my group, but like I'm more fun to be around. This, if you look at it, it's showing her face and that audio. So I didn't actually say that to her face. For me, I said this going the game, like, I don't want to do something to purposely hurt someone physically or emotionally. Like, I really don't want to punch someone in the face. Like, that just hurts my heart to do that. So I just want you to know, I didn't say it to her face, but I would say it. I would say it. And I just wouldn't want to do that to someone and say it to their face, but it's the truth. She knows that's how it was. So.
Yeah, and it seemed out of character because as great as Karishma was, she just but Karishma also was just like, I'm just going to sit here and take that. And Karishma wasn't really like that all season where she would at least get emotional. So it was kind of funny, but I was like, that went down as like the line of the season where it's like, I'm the more fun version. I'm like, I'm the one people want to be around. It's like, wow, that just happened, huh?
Yeah, she had no emotion. She was just like, okay.
Thank you. Please spit in my face one more time, please. Yeah. Oh, I love it. But no, I feel like we cover like a lot. See, I was saying this to Alexa, like when you get like somebody like Jamal, he's a side character in this season. So he's got more to say, I feel like sometimes, whereas we saw so much of what you did throughout that really it's like elaborate on this. And yes, there's other things behind the scenes, but there's some people like if you were to get one of the people who's quieter, like we always say, this Sunday Burquest is like one of our favorite people to have on. And she was pretty much invisible on her season, but she's so great to have on because everything she's saying is stuff that we just never saw.
Wow.
So I don't know. I think we covered a lot in an hour.
Good. I think so too.
Yeah, we really did.
Thank you for having me. And
of course.
Phil, it was so cool to see you in person.
Yeah,
and it was to see us all hang out. Like, was that cool for you to see the whole cast, like dancing, drinking?
I loved your whole cast because I've gone to a lot. I've been to a couple of these now, and I was really worried with how quiet your cast was on everything. And I figured it had something to do with CBS being like, shh. But also, I'm like, man, do they get along? Are they going to be like kind of like how are they all going to be? And every one of you was great. There was not one person where I was like, oh God, they're talking to me. No, all of you were amazing. So
I feel like we're pretty close. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of these people I talk to regularly, and actually, there's a video that Missy uploaded on YouTube somewhere. You can take a look. And I had a bunch. It's so funny. Like the Lyra tribe was they all came to my house, and some of them couldn't come last minute. We were gonna be 10 people in this house, and they all stayed here. And we did boxing. We went to a haunted forest. Like we did all the things that Noura likes to do, and like we get along great. It's
you and the Lyros.
Yeah. I was meant to be a Lyra, but I like my vocais too. Like I talk to Lauren every day, and you know, she just is so much fun. Her face she's so entertaining. I can't believe she didn't get more camera time, honestly, because
I know.
Yeah.
She's just a character. She's a character.
But those videos that Missy's putting out are really cool.
Yes.
I saw she did one for the finale too that I have to watch.
I'm
loving that. Yeah.
It gives you guys a good idea of our dynamic. And yeah, I'll let you guys know if we do anything, if you want to come hang out. Like we had a boat party in Rhode Island that was amazing. It was in August, and Aaron has this party boat, and he got this DJ, and it was.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Was that when Tommy was wearing the American flag spandex? Because that is a sight to behold.
Don't even know what he did in that thing. I was just like, is this happening?
But he's so boring.
That's the thing.
I have to say it every time.
He had us all fooled when he came out there and was like,
oh my God.
Girlfriend, I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Amazing. The guy who couldn't even make himself lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
Or didn't want to. He's just so good. He's got everyone wrapped around his finger. He didn't need to do anything.
Yeah.
You got to get him to invest in what you're doing here, Noura, because it's like, Tommy, if you like invest here, I'll give you some food. Like I will make you food here. I have these bars and I'm starting up all this other food, all this healthy food, Tommy. God.
Actually, the cast liked my bars, and Tommy did get my bar. So yeah, superfreshies.com.
Super Freshies.
I have 2 flavors. The first flavor is Green Dream, which is like a very vanilla flavor. And the next flavor is Nutty Chocoholic. That'll be out early next year.
That one sounds yummy.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Okay. I'm on there right now.
We'll have to do a little pre-order.
And now
I created everything. All the formulas, the branding. It's just all my crazy creations.
833 Pure Love. I love that.
That's awesome.
Oh, like wait, you're in Miami?
Okay, so
you're right. We went to school there.
You guys both did?
We both went to the U, yeah.
Okay, so why are you not there anymore?
Because I made bad mistakes in my life.
Yeah, we made the wrong decision.
I decided to live in Los Angeles for a brief period, but my whole life I'm like Daenerys Targaryen. I'm just trying to get back.
Which do you like better? Phil, do you like Miami better than LA?
Oh my God, yeah.
I don't like LA. I've been to LA twice and I don't like LA.
I am not a fan. I've lived there for 4 years now.
Yeah.
This is a thumb down, everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there, as you know, and I was going to stay the whole week. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I've seen enough. I need to go home now.
I'll tell you. And if you lived there, the only thing you really missed out on, Noura, was traffic. You missed out on traffic and a lot of like dirt and nastiness. It's a gross place. I do not like it at all.
Wow. And Alexa, you're where?
I'm in New York and I love it. I'm super happy there. Yeah.
New York City, like you're in the city.
Yes, East Village, Manhattan, right in the thick of it.
You guys are Miami people.
I know.
Honestly, I lived there almost 5 years. I've been back in the DC area for 2 because I invested all my money in Super Freshies and some other projects. If you go to nourasalman.com, it has all the businesses that I do. But I came here because I was like, you know what? I'm going to save like $3-4 grand a month to live with my family, right?
Oh, yeah.
But now I am itching to get out of here, and my next step is to get a place in Miami.
I love it.
I love the idea,
I'm
Noura.
so jealous. Like
2021, Phil and Noura are both going to be living back in Miami. We're going to be going out.
Guys, I loved speaking with you.
This was so much fun.
So loved that you wanted to have me on here, and I had fun. Like this went by like it was like a 10-minute conversation.
Yeah, that's what we love about it.
Hour.
Fantastic, power hour with an extra half hour.
Yeah,
you know,
I like that.
I know. Hey, that's for the people who really want to get messed up.
Yeah.
No, this was fantastic, Noura. I was so pumped when you came in and you were like, "I need a picture with you so I can put it on my Instagram." I was like, "Oh, I've made it. This is it. This is a big time." So.
No, Noura, you made this season so much fun for us. I don't know when you started listening to us, but we were like creepily obsessed with you at one point, and it was just, we had so much fun watching you, and I hope you had fun on the other side of it too, because you made this season for a lot of people.
That means so much to me. Thank you. You know what? I said this before to my family, actually. I said, this was the only time or first time in my life where I was rewarded for being myself. Look, I get it. There were some times I look crazy and I don't care. I enjoyed the whole thing. I never had a day where I'm like, oh my God, they made me look like this on the episode. I'm like, nope, that's me. I did that. I did that. You know, I owned it. But it's like, I feel like people feel free when they can finally be themselves. And we have a battle of like, should I do this? And like, what would look better? And for me, I told myself, when those cameras roll, I don't care. I'm going to be me 100%. I'm not going to tiptoe around for 39 days. And fun facts, when they have us send our clothes in, like to go out there, you know, you've got clothes for like media day. You've got clothes for when you're out there on the island and what you're living in and what you actually get, which represents Noura, Tommy, Dean. Then you have jury clothes. And they're like, Noura, we got all your clothes, but we didn't get your jury clothes. I'm like, I'm not putting any energy in jury clothes. I'm not sending them. And they're like, well, when you come to LA, maybe bring them with you in that bag. I'm like, okay, never did it.
I
love
3 outfits that were party outfits for day 39, a few different dresses to wear, and that was it.
Yeah,
Absolutely
I love that. Because there's this guy who I've seen at a couple of the finales now, who he's a flight attendant. His name's Nick, and he always flies out, and then he ends up, he's like, he'll get on a red eye, and then he just flies back, and he's only there for the day of the finale, and he just tries to get a seat filler, and they're always like, you want a buff? You want a buff? And he's like, I will not touch a buff until I play Survivor. And I think if you can have that mentality, like Noura said, who knows? I mean, you just never know, and sometimes you just got to put it out there.
You just where your focus goes, energy flows. And I'll tell you, in the years I was applying, it was right before I moved to Miami. That was like my last ditch effort. I'm like, I need to be on Survivor. Like, I need to be there. That is for me. And when I didn't get on, I was like, fuck this. I'm moving to Miami. I'm going to go on my own island and do my own thing. But every week, many times a week, I would play the Survivor music when I get in my car. And I'd be like, like I would just feel that music, and I would see in my mind my name at the bottom of the screen. And I did that for years. My cell phone ring was that music. Ta-da! Like literally just immerse myself, watch the show, and like, look at me now, guys. It happens.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love hearing that. I love that. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Do we have anything else that we got to do?
I know. Any final words, Noura? I'm trying to think of what we could have missed, but I think we did it.
There's so many things we can talk about.
This is the last question. I ask everybody's question. What someone in the chat just reminded me. When you got the call, the green light, you're going on Survivor, what did you do to prepare between then and actually flying out?
Great question. First of all, I have that call on video because my stepdad was like, oh yeah, I'm getting this. And
my face, like, my God.
Like my face couldn't get any like brighter and wider. I'm just like, yeah. So I'm practicing fire a few times a day in the garage on the cement floor so I don't like burn anything. And the rule was always like, when you're done making fire, make sure someone else sees that it's put out, because it's just my family wanted to make sure everything's cool. I have a lot of puzzles. I'm really actually good at puzzles. They actually show that in the first challenge. I'm good at puzzles, but I have that wooden one that's like the slider puzzle. It goes from like 1 to like 18 or something. You move it around. Love that one. A lot of yoga, as you can tell. A lot of yoga, because the thing is, you get used to being being comfortable with being uncomfortable. A lot of meditation. Honestly, the yoga and the meditation is what made me do the best. Yeah. And I could have done even more of that. But a lot of that, I wasn't like Janet and Lauren, where they would like take a certain challenge and like recreate it. Or like, I know that, I think Chelsea also had a table built for her.
Yeah, that was
the
crazy.
snake thing. And I don't know. So I didn't do anything like that. Like for me, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to focus. I'm not going to work on something that I'm not good at. I'm going to focus on my strengths. I was boxing, running. I actually gained weight. I gained not a lot, but for me, like a little bit over 5 to 10 pounds, 5 pounds maybe, to like, because you think you need it, but like I ate so much coconut out there. Like you see, I don't get that much thinner. Like actually, when I saw people in LA, they're like, Nora, you look the same. I'm like,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Yes,
And
I feel
no,
like
it's a good thing.
Elaine lost like 20 pounds. Aaron lost 20 pounds. Like a lot of people were losing a ton of weight. At the end of the day, where did you net out?
Oh, yeah. So most people honestly regained it. Like not all of it, but like someone like Janet kept going down. Like that was so impressive to see her at the finale. Like so much
she
lighter.
looks
She looks
like
great.
she's still
She
really
looks
thin.
amazing. Yeah. And like someone like Tommy and Aaron, like they like being like big and strong and muscular. Like they wanted to regain it. And Dean looks a little different, right? Like, does he look a little different to
He
you
looks a
from the
little
show?
different,
Yeah, a little bit.
I like the scruff. I think he needs to bring the scruff in. I think that's what's missing.
The baby face, you know?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah. So when I weighed at Ponderosa after like the end of the day of eating and whatever, I weighed 148, which is like my highest ever. And at the end of the game, I was 137. So you could say 10, 11 pounds. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Not a lot. Like,
yeah.
Like relative
to make
to
it the
everyone
entire way too.
Yeah, actually, on day 39, the doctor was like, Nora, you are the most energetic person to ever get to 39. Like, I've never seen anyone with as much energy as you at the end of this game.
That's amazing.
I think that's a good way to say go to like nourasalman.com and super freshies because whatever she's doing is working if she's got that much energy.
Eat that coconut.
And something you might not think about when you watch it because you see Molly, you see Lauren, you see all these girls, you see Kelly. I am 10 years older than them. I'm 37. So that's something that like I feel really good about. I'm like, I feel young, I feel vital, I feel beautiful, and I'm older. And so I do feel, and I do know it's a lot of the things that I do. And when you're out there, I mean, you got to work with what you've got. But look, Dean was doing meditation, he was doing yoga, and I gotta say, I did tell him this. The DK chillin' approach worked because he kept calm, cool, and collected. And whenever I did do that, I did great. Like that final challenge required that. Like at some point, people were looking at me like, okay, is Nora gonna get this done already? Because I'm done. I'm done trying, you know? Like it took probably 50 minutes for that challenge to end. But I feel like sometimes I go with a more chaotic, crazy, aggressive approach. And sometimes it's just okay, hold on to this bar.
Yeah.
You can Olympic athlete and win a necklace. Like it's like sometimes the path of least resistance can also get you there.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be so crazy and chaotic. So I think when I play again, because I know it's happening, I can feel it happening.
It's happening.
It's coming.
Right. Well, actually, what advice would you guys give me? Because you're the experts.
Oh, geez.
Well, yeah, I mean, we are the
specialist.
experts because Tommy listened to us before he went out and he won, and Adam listened to us before he went out and he won. So I'm just tooting our own horn here, you know.
Just gotta toot your horn.
You know, I just got to do that. But now, Nora.
Okay, this is good.
Yeah, I really think that if whenever you make the moves, because I think you had the reasons for the moves, but I think that what you needed to be able to do at the end was explain to the jury what your reason was in a way that the jury could understand. And I think that was the biggest downfall because I think you knew in your mind why they made sense, but actually putting it out to them, and you could have said it exactly how you said it, and it makes sense still to you. But I think for them, they just were not understanding 100%. Like, okay, Nora, that sounds like it makes sense to you, but that does not make sense to us. And it's like, can you come over that hump and get into their minds? I think that's really all that was missing.
I couldn't do that right now though. Like I don't know how to redo that. Honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I say it over and I'm like, what would I say? Like,
find a tree and go talk to that tree.
Yeah, or talk to the leaves as you move them around in front of you. Make sure you do that too.
I'm moving this leaf here because if this person votes like this, I need to.
Hey, I get it.
I
get that. I get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
watch
really
more
all
of you guys. Basically,
obviously.
Watch more of you guys.
That's all you got to do.
Explaining the craziness to, like, explain the craziness. Like, explain the method to your madness.
Well, I'm not gonna lie.
Stop giving Tommy food.
Yes, don't give Tommy. Don't feed any of the big men.
Don't feed anybody. Let them starve.
Let them starve. You feed yourself.
All right, next time. Okay.
And I'm over here and I'm on your website because I can't help it. Once somebody mentions it, now I just have it up. It's like everything that's on here. You have like this is why I would have this. This is why I would have that. This is why I would have this aspect. I think if you can say with every move you make, you can say this is why I did this. Boom. I think that's all it took. I think that was all that was missing. And don't sit next to Tommy again.
Yeah.
Get rid of the social threats, In your ideal world, like really in your ideal world, let's say Dan doesn't get ejected from the game and all that. Who do you want to sit with at the final three?
Kershman and Dean.
Kershman and Dean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What could have been? What could have been?
Because then they're also Lyro, and the my Vokai would be with me, and the Lyro that are theirs, I'm really close with them, and I'm actually closer with them than they are. So that would be the best situation.
And maybe on another season, you just never know. But if you start off on a tribe like that, you might just fit in more naturally, and then you don't have to midway through the game like try to sell yourself to these people because you did. I mean, like you said, you started off on the calmer tribe, which is not the heady tribe. That's not necessarily where you fit in. So it's like if you start on Lyro, who knows? But then again, you could be on the tribe that loses 3 of the first 4 instead of just losing 1 of the first 4.
That's true. Yeah.
Survivor, it's one of those things where people, like I said this to Chelsea because I know she's a huge fan, but it's like Chelsea, it's not your fault you went out so early. It's the game has just changed so much that at this point, who knows who's gonna, like Molly, is she the second worst player on this season? No. But she goes home second. It's just how it goes nowadays. You just can't help it. You know, back in the day, Ronnie Barda's not finishing 20th place on a season of Survivor, but that's how the 30s are now.
Because it's like you guys said this, it's like the bigger threats were going out right away.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, who are we going to root for now? Like,
yeah.
That's the thing, though. Everyone's become a very smart player. And it's like when you see these returning players come back, they're going to go for the bigger threats right away, even though it'll be enjoyable to play the game with them and they could do some stuff with that player. They're like, no, we're blockading them from the beginning. And that kind of, the thing is though, I'll tell you what it comes down to. Like in our season, Ronnie and Molly, like you didn't feel you could trust them. That's the thing. Yeah. And once people sniff that, like it's like a baby not liking someone or a dog not liking someone. It's just like, and that's it. Like that's it. That's really what it was.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that advice made sense there, Nora. I mean, I always feel weird because it's like Alexa and I also every time I do this, I'm sitting in air conditioning. You know, so like, what do I actually know? The most I've starved is like when I didn't eat for like 8 hours in between meals. So like, what do I know? But
I think it's also hard to like act. It's like you feel like people are beating you up, and they're like, "Tell us why you should win. Tell us why you should win." And you're like, just stop hitting me.
I do think though on a returning season, if you were to play on a returning season, people might underestimate you, which actually could give you an advantage because that you can surprise people. Which is always we see that a lot of times. I mean, Sarah Lucina was one. Nobody really took her too seriously coming out the second time, and then Troy Zem was like, next thing I knew, I'm sitting next to her in the final 3, and there's no way I can get a vote.
And she was composed. She spoke with that good eye contact. She was compelling. She was confident. And I think you want to be on the offensive. And I really did feel even being in situations where I was not in the best situation, I always felt confident and I would play on the offensive. Like even when I was on the outs of my group, I would play on the offensive. That tribal was I'm on the defense and I feel like I'm getting hate and you don't feel like you have anyone rooting for you. So I think you got to tell yourself, even when you have no cheerleaders, you have to be your biggest cheerleader. And I say it all the time. And I actually asked if I could put this in my medical bag and they said no, but I keep this near me at all times. You have to believe in yourself. That's the secret.
You put that in your medical bag?
I wanted to put it in my medical bag. So every day when you go in there for like your contacts and like your multivitamin you get to take, like I would have it in my face. Like it sounds stupid, but like you don't have someone saying this to you every day. And actually, like I don't know if I can turn myself around right here, but like I keep around my room all of these kinds of like messages that tell me, you know, like keep your head. Oh my gosh, it's so weird with this laptop. Keep your head, heels and standards high. And it's like right in front of my bed. You know, like next to my bed, I put like little messages. And so anyway, you need those reminders and like out there, you don't have them. If you don't have that one person, like some people that are married, their husband tells them like, I don't even know. Everyone's relationship is different, but like you need those reminders, whether it's your partner, whether it's your best friend, you know, you need someone being like, you're awesome. And when you don't have that, like your doubt creeps in and they sense it. They eat you alive from there.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that so much. And I don't know. I mean, now we were wrapping up at 1 hour 23, and now
we're almost there. We're gonna make it to 2 hours.
We're gonna make it
Hour, 2 hours.
Well, what I want to say is, with all of that, I think the last question, this came up in the chat, and I think it's the most important question.
Cool.
Nora.
Yeah, let's see if there's anything in the chat.
This is the one that everybody was really wondering, and this is the most important one. How did Dean get his shoes down?
Yeah.
You know, I think he said it on the red carpet. I don't know where I heard it, but he said, I asked Tommy to help me get my shoes down.
Now, do you think that hurt your, did that never came up again, huh? Because like Dean, was there like too much pride to be like, Nora hid my shoes and I couldn't reach them, or what was the deal?
I just threw them up there.
I feel like that night when we got back, everyone was on that log, and you see me putting my clothes down there. And literally, I didn't want to be there. I just wanted to put my clothes so they dry in that certain spot. And I love how Dean's like, could you please exit the conversation? You know? And I actually came down the stairs like, is bedtime stories from Dean over yet? Like,
oh my
literally, they were all crowded around him, like listening to what he had to say. And it was annoying because I'm like, not only did he like almost like get me out of the game tonight, he's continuing like telling his stories, having everyone lined up all around him. I'm just like, this has to end.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, that was the mystery. There was no conclusion to that on the show, so we needed to know.
His BFF took him down for him. And actually, remember at the moment, like when I was going to do it, I like found a cameraman, and I was like, because all the cameras were on Dean. I was like, okay, find this cameraman. I'm like, hey, can you follow me? He's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to take Dean's shoes. And he's like, you know, I've been on like 20 seasons, and I don't think you want to do that. Like, it really ended bad for the last person that did that. And I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, you're already far enough in the game at that point. It's like,
whatever.
Screw it.
Okay, fuck it, let's do it. And I was like,
I love that he's giving you advice. Like, wouldn't recommend that. And you're like, no,
that was kind of cool. I was like, wow, he's looking out for me. Like, I actually did feel a lot of love from the production and the producers and like even the doctor. Like I really did feel like, oh, they do want me to do well, you know? I did feel the love. And they're seeing me be myself. Like I get it. In life, it's really hard. It's the hardest job in the world. I said it, like to be you. And it's like we dip out of being us, we go back into us. We go dip out of ourselves, we go back into ourselves. It's really hard. And when you got cameras on you and you got the heady group that I'm in, they're like, if I say this, if I do that, and it's like, what way to live is that? And I'm the opposite. And I think it can be helpful. It can be hurtful too, because maybe you say something or do something you don't mean, or it hurts someone's feelings. But I think if you come from a good place, if we all come from a good place and a good heart, and we're true to ourselves, we would operate much better as a whole.
I like that.
And I think that's why I had a great game is like, and I enjoyed watching myself. Like, oh, and one other thing I gotta say, Jamal said this. He's like, you know what? I don't like that they got to tell this story out of like the bottom person's eyes or whatever. The thing is, it's two things. One, what's the job of CBS? Their job is to portray the perception of how the players are experiencing these players. So it's not to tell you the truth. It's not to tell you that Jamal's a good-hearted guy, good head on his shoulders, doesn't mean harm to anyone. That's not their job. Their job is to portray Jamal's coming off like a little smug, a little condescending, a little coercive. And I told him in real life, I was like, this is why I had problems with you. Like, you remind me of like that controlling boyfriend or like that dominating dad that's like you're in trouble or you shouldn't do this or they're kind of trying to control what I'm doing. And I hate that. And some of the faces he would make, he didn't know he was making them. So I'm sure it's hard to see that back and be like, oh, wow. Or like when I'm eating that rice and he's like, oh, yeah, well, maybe other people would have rice if you didn't have such a heaping, plate there. And it's just like stuff like that. And I'm just like, oh, like I feel I'm getting in trouble with my dad.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but, which doesn't really come across, I feel like, when he's not starving. Because in real life, I thought he was going to be the same way. I'm like, okay, let's see how Jamal's going to be. And it doesn't come across that way. And I think it's like when you're in those elements and everything like that, like the extreme of whoever you are comes out. And Jamal does have that type A, I want to be in control. And then it really starts to come out. And then you try to you're overstepping on everything.
Right. And he means well. It's like, okay, he wants to get that fire lit and he thinks he can do it better than someone else. But the thing is, when you get that feel of, okay, he thinks he's smarter. Okay, he thinks, when you start to feel like that, no one likes that. Like, just no one likes that. However, he's extremely intelligent. Yeah. And it probably was hard. Like, I know it's hard for me. I'm sure it's even in your lives. Like, it's hard sometimes when you're like, oh my God, I have to sit this one out. It's really hard right now, you
Yeah.
know? And that's a lot of what we're experiencing is him being like, okay, I got to hold back, but it's really hard for me. And I love Jamal. I have a lot of respect for him. And I wish I had known, like, in the game that he really wasn't coming for me, but I didn't believe, like, he said it, you know,
Hey, you two were, yeah.
When you tell the truth, that's even harder in Survivor. Like, he was telling me, no, I'm not coming for you. I'm like, yeah, you are. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, you're not?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Mind blown.
So I think the best thing that Jamal said when we talked to him a few days ago was the 20 of you were designed to hate each other.
I thought that was so interesting.
I was like, that like kept me up at night. I was like, that is messed up. But it's like, that makes sense.
Or it's like love hate, because like you can get like the whole thing I said, you know, it's like a family. You can love and hate them, but you're not going to be indifferent. You're kind of going to be like one or the other. And like even Molly, like up until recently, I was just like, yeah, I don't like her. She's lacking compunction. She's lacking, you know, apathy. Like she seems apathetic and she's lacking empathy, you know? And so for me, those are the problems I had with her out there. It's like, I just felt like, and even when I was going home, I'm like, yo, can you help me out here? And she's like, well, the votes are just like this on Jason and this on you. I'm like, can you just shift them all? Or like, can we go to someone else?
Screw Jason.
She's like, this is what it is. I'm just like, duh, like, do you not care? So like, I had these, you know, this is how I felt towards her. But like before we started in pregame, I'm like, okay, she eats plant-based. She likes to run like me. She's cute. She's friendly. She's smiley. Like, I was like, I'm going to love that girl, you know? And then after the game in LA, I was like, her mom's awesome. Her sisters are awesome. Her brothers, like, I was just like, wow, like she's actually really a good person. But it's funny how like someone can come off when you're playing that game. It's like the person that you could love is dangerous. It's like Elaine, right? Or Janet. Like you want to love them, but you're also like, can't have any of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're going to beat you at the end, which is not okay.
Well, if there's anything that I've learned from this podcast, I learned what compunction means. I had to Google that. You mentioned it a few times. First time I've ever heard that word. So I learned something new today.
Oh, thanks.
Phil,
and just to not to leave Alexa hanging, as somebody who's, you know, an MFA in creative writing, I too looked up what compunction means, I just literally just typed it in, and it's so funny that Alexa just brought it up because I think we were at the hour 55 and like 30-second mark when I looked it up, and Alexa brought it up at an hour 55 and 30 seconds. So, there you go, Norma.
Awesome.
I'm more normal. I'm more than pre-face, guys. There's more up here than
got a lot up there.
Okay.
You just taught Alexa and I a lot, so we're ready to go. I'm gonna go use that word the rest of the day now.
I'm gonna go find a way to shoehorn that into a conversation.
If you're ever sick, you guys text me. I have little tips and tricks that will make you not sick, or you're feeling low on energy. I'll tell you how to alkalize yourself. Like a simple thing you could do. You take any water, you put a little baking soda in it. It will bring up the alkalinity. A lot of the bottled water you're buying has added sodium bicarbonate. That's the only reason like those high pH waters are high pH. So you could do that yourself. Obviously, it'll taste a little salty or whatever. Lemon juice is highly alkalizing, and anything green, all the salads, like ginger, spices. That's why being vegan in general is healthier if you're not eating processed foods.
It makes sense.
Like it. Yeah. I like all the green too. I won't
say what I'm about to eat right after this, Nora.
Oh,
but
Phil.
Okay, I heard you talking about wings, and that worries me because you're talking about a condiment, which is acidic. You're talking about animal product, which is acid forming, and you're talking about frying it and probably in a bad oil.
Phil, come on.
I don't know how my heart's still beating, Nora. I'm
drinking water out of a bottle.
Yeah.
I have a chickenless nuggets recipe I could send to you.
I could do it.
Good.
I could do it, but I'm also about to go to Buffalo. And so like when I go to Buffalo, my friend who lives up there is already like, hey, we're gonna go get wings the one night. And I'm like, oh God, I just ate wings last night. So I'm about to put myself through the ringer.
Change and shift your perception about wings. So my stepdad is from Buffalo, and apparently, and I've read about it a little bit, but basically the wings were the part that no one wanted to eat. So what they do, they dipped it in oil, they fried it, they slathered it with the sauce. Why? Because now you're going to be thirsty for beer. So they took a remnant shitty part and turned it into a moneymaker for alcohol.
Phil,
so you're eating a remnant part. You're better than that.
I won't lie. I'm
probably
probably be drinking a lot of Bud Light while I do that too.
Nora, is the Impossible Burger legit? Because I like that, but I don't. Is that like good or is it not that good?
Okay, the Impossible Burger is made from a soy protein isolate.
Yes.
The Beyond Meat Burger is made with pea protein and then coconut oil and then some other flavors. I think
That
out of
sounds
the two,
better.
the Beyond Meat is a better product.
Mhm.
Leonardo DiCaprio put a lot of money in that company, also in Khalifa, which is that like the almond milks and the coconut milks. So for me, I like the Beyond Meat Burger. In general, they're both processed, so they're both basically junk foods. And anyway, animal product is acid forming. However, you've now allowed a vegan to eat some, or if you want to be more plant-based, that's an
Mhm.
option, but it is still processed. And honestly, it doesn't have much nutrition except for the protein.
Mhm.
So I think it's good if you have it like it's like a treat. Have it a few times a week,
Don't
but
base
keep
anything
eating
on
it constantly. Yeah, like eat it instead of something else. But I
Mhm.
wouldn't. It's a processed food. It's not real. Like you'd actually be better off buying something made of vegetables or making something yourself that's
Yeah.
made of whole foods.
Okay.
So-
I always wondered because like I see the Impossible and the Beyond Beef like meat everywhere.
taste
And
good.
they
It tastes
taste good and they taste like a burger. But I wondered like where they stood.
I mean, some of these products actually take the gene of an animal and what that taste gene is, and they can put it and engineer it into that food. So actually, when you eat a burger, there's a reason why you feel like, oh, this
Oh
tastes
my
like
God.
burger.
That's
You know,
amazing.
they're making a lot of these like pseudo meats now. It's becoming a big market, and this is another conversation, and we could do another one if you want.
I'm telling you.
I would love to do that.
Okay, because the thing is, we're running out of a lot of things. And I will say this. When you eat an animal, the point of eating an animal is you eat what it ate. We have a food chain. The problem is you're not getting an animal that was in the wild living for years eating, plants, which is now when you eat their liver and their whatever you're eating of them, you're getting all that nutrition. You're getting dense nutrition if we were having them in the wild and we were in a normal society. When you have them in a farm and they're being farmed, what nutrition are you actually getting? It's actually not what you would have gotten before. And so that's why I feel like because of the hormones, because of the antibiotics, because they're acid forming and they don't have much nutrition, it's actually better to just lower your consumption and trade it in for other options. The highest sources of protein that are vegetable are edamame, broccoli, pea protein, which you could do in shakes or like any sort of vegan protein, tempeh, and tofu. Those are the highest sources. Best bang for your buck. I would focus on those.
I love that. Like, this is a Survivor Specialist podcast, but I feel like, Alexa, we have a spinoff coming of like Nora helping us become healthier.
I
feel like that's going to be a podcast that's going to be happening. And
I'm very into that. I think it's so interesting.
Like, Phil, what'd you eat this week? Okay, I only had fast food 3 times, Nora. I cut it down. No, just kidding.
I will get you replacements. The trick is, I do health coaching too. Like the trick is replacements. Like instead of this, you get this.
Okay.
And you have my number now, Phil. So
I do.
Phil's gonna start
Right
texting
here.
you every time you eat something.
Yeah, every time. Here's
Honestly,
a
the
picture.
whole cast does that. Dean was sick recently. He's like, Nora, queen of health. What do I do?
Yeah.
Janet posted she was in yoga the other day. She's like, Nora, how's my form? Lauren's sick with the cold. She's like, Nora, I'm doing ginger shots, just like you taught me. Like the cast equates me with it now. Really.
I like that. You're the health instructor. Everyone needs
health
one.
specialist. There we go. We got
There
it.
we
That's our
go.
spinoff.
We made it. 2 hours. And
We did
it.
And
Good
Nora
job.
thought this was going to be 1 hour.
Yeah, this is not a power hour. This was a power hour, but it was a power 2 hours.
This is your show. You knew what you were doing. You knew
We
you were
knew.
going to get me to the finish line in 2 hours.
Yeah, we were going to
That's
coach
it.
you through it.
But all right. Well, I guess we made it to 2 hours. I've learned a lot about what not to eat. We've also learned a lot about Nora's game. She got advice on how to play the next time.
From us. Yeah.
I think we've covered pretty much all of it. I think we're good to go.
This was so
Awesome.
much fun, Nora. We had like I said, we had so much fun watching you this season. We had so much fun talking to you just now. We would love to have you back on to talk about Phil's eating habits, hopefully how to improve them. But in the meantime, Phil and I are going to be off for about a week or so. I'm going to be out of the country.
Where are you gonna go?
I'm going to Costa Rica.
Fun. I love Costa
So
Rica.
excited. Yes.
Oh,
We're
you're
doing
gonna
a lot
have
of
a great time.
activities, a lot of zip lining. Very
Yes,
scared of
it's
zip
great
lining,
there.
but we're super
Amazing.
excited. So we'll be back after probably like on the 7th or so.
Okay.
With hopefully a couple more tell-alls. Hopefully be talking to a few more members of your cast. We'll
All right.
we'll see if anyone's texted you, if anyone's feeling sick or whatever they're eating. But
I'll put in a good word for you guys.
Yes,
thank you.
But yeah, in the meantime, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whole shebang. And Noura, thank you so much for coming on. We had so much fun talking to you.
Thanks for having me, guys. And
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Noura.
Happy 2020, everybody.
All right.